Charlotte's POV. Thanks to Olivia's choice of dress for me and the makeup, I soon became the center of attention at the meeting. Some were praising me, while there were still some who looked weirdly at me and gossiped behind our backs. Because of our werewolves' hearings, we could still hear their voices even though they were whispering. "Isn't she Hayden's ex Luna?" one female voice asked her friends. "I don't know how she can still be shameless to appear in an important meeting such as this," her friend replied. "Don't you know that she's the heiress of the Mooncrest pack? She's practically the alpha of the second most powerful pack on this continent," another voice said. One of them snorted. "So what if she's the alpha of the Mooncrest pack? It doesn't change the fact she's just a rejected she-wolf. Who would want a rejected she-wolf?" I could feel Olivia fuming beside me. Those bitches. Did they know what they were talking about? You are beautiful and powerful. And you were the one who rejected Hayden, not the other way around. And what's with their looking at you weirdly? I'm going to teach a lesson. She was about to walk toward the gossiping she-wolves, but I stopped her. I was moved that she always cared for me, but it wouldn't do her any good to fight with them. "Thank you for caring for me, Livy. But don't worry about me. The moment I pretended to be a weak orphan and left everything behind 3 years ago, I already heard their prejudices toward me. Now I'm used to it and don't care about it," I comforted her. "How can you don't care about those vile words?" Olivia seethed. I patted her head helplessly. She was such a cute she-wolf, but so fierce when defending her friends. "We are in the Alpha King's territory. Are you sure you want to make a scene?" She opened her mouth but then pouted. I knew she wouldn't dare to make a scene here. She wouldn't want to bring a bad reputation to her pack, given that she was the Silent Prowlers pack's representative tonight. This meeting was held at the Ethereal Crown Pack, the strongest pack, with Alpha O'Dare Elsher, the Alpha O'Fay, Fel of all alphas, as their alpha. It wouldn't do anyone good to make a scene here. A sudden commotion appeared at the ballroom door. I looked over and caught sight of Hayden with Noah, his beta. I had to admit that Hayden looked really handsome and powerful as hell, even though there were other alphas here. No one could compare to him, especially when he was clad in a tailored black suit, showcasing his tall, muscular body. Even Noah could be considered as handsome too. The duo Alpha and Beta looked good, standing together side by side. It was really a sight to behold. His appearance instantly attracted the attention of many she-wolves. They flocked to him like moths to a flame. I sighed. No matter how much I hated him, it didn't change the fact that I thought he was good-looking. I remembered one time while we were still together. I praised him for being good-looking, and he answered in a mocking tone that I had always had good taste. I guessed he was a narcissistic bastard. Hayden's POV. I stepped into the ballroom with Noah and instantly felt annoyed when so many she-wolves surrounded us. This was one of the reasons I claimed Charlotte and married her 3 years ago, to get rid of these shameless she-wolves who would throw themselves at me. I was disgusted at their fawning expression and words. It made me uncomfortable and wanted to escape as soon as possible. Noah, being my beta, knew my feelings, and ushered me to another area, which coincidentally was where my sister was standing with her friends. I looked around and immediately saw a gorgeous she-wolf in red Charlotte, my ex-mate, my ex-Luna. She looked so stunning and fucking breathtaking in the red dress. Sharp and beautiful. How come I never knew how gorgeous she was before this? Oh my goddess, it can't be. My sister's sudden exclaim interrupted my thoughts, and I calmed down instantly. Thank goddess for her, or I would have marched to Charlotte and large out at her, just like I did at the club. That lady in red. Is it actually Charlotte? She said in disbelief. I looked at her and saw her eyes go wide, nearly popping out of their sockets. Oh my goddess, it really is Charlotte. I can't believe we thought she was a noble lady and actually praised her, her friend added. I frowned. What were they talking about? Charlotte was indeed a noble lady. She was the heiress of the Mooncrest pack, and soon to be their alpha. Why are you surprised that it was her? I asked my sister, Milla. I can't believe that slut is so shameless to appear in such a high-class meeting such as this. And look at her appearance. She must have purposely worn that type of cheap gown to seduce some male werewolves, Milla said in disgust. Milla's words somehow made me uncomfortable. What was wrong with Charlotte's dress? It was sexy, yeah, but it was still elegant and classy. And cheap? I didn't think so. Although I didn't know much about ladies' clothing, I could still distinguish between expensive and cheap dresses. The Alpha King must not know her sluttiness. How could he invite a cheap she-wolf like her to this meeting? Milla kept insulting Charlotte, and I'd had enough of her degrading words. It made me angry that she kept insulting Charlotte. Her words didn't reflect a representative of the Red Claw Pack, and it made me furious. Milla, I called her calmly, looked at her with a sharp gaze, and unleashed my alpha aura directed only at her. Hayden, she stuttered, and her body trembled before she looked down and cocked her head to one side, baring me her neck in submission. Mind your words. Remember that you are one of the representatives of the Red Claw Pack? I warned her with a terrifying snarl. Oh, okay, Alpha. I'm sorry, she said in a shaking voice. I reined in my alpha aura, releasing her from submission. She looked at me once she was no longer in submission, and I saw disbelief and fear in her eyes. This was the first time I had ever talked to her in this way, or even forced her to submit. It wasn't a wonder she felt scared of me at the moment. Remember my words, I warned her again before turning around to go as far away from her as possible. I didn't want to hear another word from her, especially if she was insulting Charlotte. Her words of insults made me uncomfortable and angry. I didn't know the reason why I felt that way. Maybe because Charlotte used to be my ex-Luna, and a part of me was still possessive of her. If there was anyone who could humiliate or insult her, then it should be me. Someone she had fooled for the whole 3 years we were together. And no one else, not even my foul-mouthed sister. So, I guess I should mingle with the rest of the guests, right? I asked Olivia and Leo, who stood next to me. Lottie, you are going to be the alpha of the Mooncrest Pack soon. It would be best for you to let them know you. It would then be easier for our pack to cooperate with them if they knew about you, Leo said matter-of-factly. I let out a sigh. I didn't really like this type of event. It was tiring to talk with so many people and having to smile throughout the whole time. But Leo was right. Even though the Mooncrest Pack is the second strongest pack, it would be good to know other alphas from other powerful packs. It would help with our operations, as Lo had pointed out. Before we could move from our standing spots, some alphas already came to us and surrounded us. Alpha Charlotte, I've heard about your reputation as being a powerful female alpha. I'm sure the Mooncrest Pack will become even stronger under your leadership, one of them said. I wasn't familiar with most of the alphas in front of me, and I was unsure how to address him, until Leo whispered softly in my ears. Alpha Cain from the Dusk Howlers Pack. I smiled at Alpha Cain. Thank you for your confidence in me, Alpha Cain. I will be sure to make the Mooncrest Pack stronger and not let you down. And I do hope the Mooncrest Pack and the Dusk Howlers Pack can have a successful cooperation in the future. Alpha Cain smiled brightly and clinked his glass with mine. I had no choice but to drink the wine in my glass. This went on for quite some time. They knew I wasn't only Hayden's ex-Luna since I was able to come to this meeting. Some knew I was the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack and used the chance to introduce themselves to me and talk about cooperation. I was trained by my dad on how to talk to people and was good at it. But as I'd said, it was tiring. After speaking to so many alphas and even betas, I felt tired, and Olivia, who stood beside me, noticed it. We excused ourselves, and she led me to a corner with sofas for us to rest. Goddess, I guess I'm getting old now. I felt tired just by talking to that many people, and my feet are killing me, I groaned. Livy laughed and patted my hand. You are 22 years old. How can you feel old? You are just not used to it after 3 years of being caged in the red claw pack. You'll soon get used to it, especially when you become the alpha of the Mooncrest pack. Can't I ask Leo to attend these events in my stead? I tried to get out of future similar situations. I think Leo most probably dragged you against your will if you ask him to attend on your behalf. Olivia laughed. She then looked at my feet. Sore feet? I nodded as I leaned back lazily on the sofa. It's been a while since I wore heels. From now on, you can only wear heels and no flats. You have to get used to it, Olivia said with twinkling eyes. Her words made me speechless. What if I was wearing casual clothes? Did I need to wear heels too? No matter what clothes you wear, you need to wear heels. Or you can wear heels when you are at home to get used to it, she said, as if she could read my mind. I could only shake my head helplessly at her. Charlotte, I heard Milla's angry voice and saw her coming toward us. Here we go again. Why are you here? This is a meeting for powerful alphas. A slut like you have no place here, she mocked. A slut? If Charlotte is a slut, then what does it make your brother, who claimed her as a mate? And I think there's something wrong with your brain. Char is a powerful female alpha of the Mooncrest pack, Livy shot back before I could say anything. I nearly laughed out loud, hearing Olivia's words. She was so savage, and her words were spot on. If I were a slut, then what would that make Hayden? Wouldn't it be humiliating for him to have a slut as a Luna for 3 years? You. Milla's face turned red from her anger as she couldn't refute Livy's words. Guards! Milla suddenly yelled at the guards, which made me raise an eyebrow, waiting to see what she would do next. The guards came hearing her call. Throw them out! Milla pointed at us. They sneaked in here without having an invitation, and she tried to steal my bracelet. Luckily, I was able to stop her and caught her while doing so. Hearing Milla's confident words, the guards had no choice but to obey her. They looked at Livy and me and said, Ladies, please leave the venue. I stood up calmly and smiled. Olivia was already fuming beside me, but I caught her hand, stopping her from saying anything. I reached inside my purse and took out the invitation to the meeting, showing it to the guards. Before the guards could take the invitation from my hand, Milla grabbed it and tore it to pieces. This slut is not qualified to be here. She even produced a fake invitation. Milla kept trying to get me to be thrown away from the meeting, and there were already so many people gathering around us. I couldn't stand her insulting me as a slut repeatedly, and Olivia was ready to lash out, but I saw a majestic man standing behind Milla. Milla, I said her name calmly. Why don't you ask the Alpha King behind you whether I'm qualified to be here or not? Milla turned around and was shocked to see the Alpha King standing behind her. But Milla, being Milla, of course, would talk badly about me to anyone. Especially the Alpha King, as she was determined to make me leave this place. Alpha King, her voice became soft and respectful. This woman sneaked in, and she even had a fake invitation. And she was trying to steal my bracelet when I wasn't looking. Luckily, my instinct was sharp, and I stopped her before she could take it. She's a thief and an intruder. She shouldn't be here, Milla said with an aggrieved but righteous expression. The corners of my lips couldn't help but curl up as I waited for Milla to make a fool of herself. Everyone was looking at the Alpha King, waiting to see his reaction. He stepped up and looked at Milla. Really? She used a fake invitation to get into this meeting? Yes. She knew this was an important event and couldn't get an invitation, so she produced a fake one. Milla nodded and gave me a smug smile. And she tried to steal your bracelet? The Alpha King looked at the bracelet around Mila's wrist. As if she had found a strong ally, Mila raised her hand to show him and everyone the bracelet I had supposedly tried to steal. Yes, as you can see, my bracelet is a diamond bracelet. She must want this beautiful diamond bracelet, so she tried to steal it. I looked at it and sneered inwardly. It was just an ordinary diamond bracelet made up of 1/1-carat solitaire diamond surrounded by Malay diamonds. Why would I steal such a cheap bracelet? The Alpha King stayed silent, as if pondering about Mila's words. Alpha King, you shouldn't let a woman like her be in this meeting. It will only lower the class of this meeting. Mila, being the fool she was, kept trying to convince the Alpha King to throw me and Olivia out. So, you are saying she sneaked in using a fake invitation and tried to steal your diamond bracelet? And that she does not deserve to be here? The Alpha King repeated Mila's accusations about me. Mila nodded fervently, and some of the crowd had already been whispering and gossiping about me. The Alpha King finally stepped toward me and smiled. Mila was behind the Alpha King, so she couldn't see the smile on the Alpha King's face. She turned excited, thinking the Alpha King would get angry and threw me out. But the Alpha King's subsequent words and actions made the crowd fall into silence. But how could it be? I was the one who personally invited Alpha Charlotte, he said, and took my hand before placing a light kiss on the back of it. Just like a gentleman, the Alpha King took my hand and bowed slightly to place a light kiss on the back of my hand. I froze and felt awkward. Even I could feel the whole crowd was shocked to see this scene. The Alpha King then released my hand and smiled at me. I'm sorry for the mistreatment. I should have told the guard that you are my esteemed guest. His words made me smile. He deserved the title of the Alpha King. Righteous, wise, and knew how to be humble. Usually, alphas were arrogant. But Alpha O'Dare knew how to assess a situation and handle it accordingly. Alpha O'Dare, as the Alpha King, you shouldn't have bowed to a mere she-wolf like me. I do not deserve this special treatment, I said with a light smile. Alpha O'Dare chuckled. You are the only female alpha in this world, and a powerful one at that. I invited you personally because I admire and respect you. You'd get bullied if I didn't show everyone how much I respect you. How can I let my esteemed guest be bullied right under my nose? The moment the Alpha King said those words, I saw Mila's face contorted into an ugly expression. Her face turned red from anger and embarrassment. How could anyone not know to who the Alpha King's subtle sarcasm was directed at? And I love your bracelet. It's by the Peach Blossom Jewelry? Alpha O'Dare asked. No, not asked. More like stated, to tell everyone how expensive and exclusive my bracelet was. If any of the guests were clever, they would have gotten the Alpha King's hint that Mila's bracelet couldn't be compared to mine. The Peach Blossom Jewelry was the most exclusive jewelry company. It catered only to those who could spend at least $10 million for their smallest pieces. They only produced one piece for each of their designs. Thus, it was the perfect jewelry company for the rich who wanted to own one-of-a-kind pieces. I laughed and said mischievousness, You have good taste, Alpha O'Dare. The Alpha King seemed to have a good sense of humor and was easy to get along with. At least at this moment when he was defending me. Alpha King. Mila stuttered. I'm sorry for thinking that she sneaked in. Oh. So Mila was able to apologize? But the matter between Charlotte and I is still not finished, she added. I rolled my eyes inwardly. Yeah, right. How could Mila apologize? Of course, she would still create trouble for me. She just wanted me to be humiliated on every occasion. She tried to steal my bracelet. That is still the fact, Mila said dignifiedly. So, she still needs to apologize to me. I raised an eyebrow at her. Did she not hear Alpha O'Dare's words about my bracelet? It seemed not. Was she hell-bent on framing me? However, this was not her first time, and I was used to it by now. Olivia was so mad, and she cursed. She raised her hand to slap Milla, but I grabbed her hand and stopped her mid-action. She looked at me with angry eyes, as if asking me why I stopped her from teaching Milla a lesson. I smiled reassuringly at her, and she got my hint. She lowered her arm and pouted. I chuckled, looking at her cute expression. I knew she wanted to slap Milla herself. She cared about me a lot and would feel good if she could hit Milla, but I had other thoughts. I had to show Milla I wasn't the same weak-ass orphan anymore, that I wasn't easy to bully anymore, and I had to be the one teaching her a lesson. Milla, do you really want me to apologize? I asked calmly. Of course. You tried to steal my bracelet, so you must apologize to me. She smiled smugly. How much is your bracelet worth? I still asked with a calm voice. Why are you asking? Someone like you will never be able to afford a bracelet like mine. She mocked. How much? I repeated my question. $1 million. Now you realize how expensive my bracelet is? You will never be able to get that much amount of money. That's why you wanted to steal my bracelet, she said with a proud yet mocking smile. I couldn't afford it. I smiled and calmly took a bottle of wine from the table. Before anyone could react, I tilted the bottle over her head, and the wine wet her head and flowed down to her neck and body. Next, I forcefully tore her bracelet from her wrist, causing her to yelp, and I threw it on the ground before stepping on it and crushing all the diamonds into pieces. My movements were fast and precise, and no one could react in time to stop me. Only after the crushing sounds of the diamonds were heard that Milla reacted. She looked at her broken diamond bracelet on the floor, and her face turned red from anger once more. She looked at me with hatred and shrieked, You! How dare you do all those things to me? Milla raised her hand, but I caught it quickly before raising my other arm, of course, to slap her. I wouldn't go easy on her today. I wouldn't spare her today, or she'd keep feeling superior and bullying me again. I had to show her who was the boss. As I swung my hand down, I felt someone caught my wrist. I looked to my left and saw Hayden looking at me with his intense gaze. That's enough, Charlotte, he growled. I shook his hand away and flung Milla's hand away at the same time as if I had touched something dirty. Of course, Hayden would defend Milla. Maybe he thought I really tried to steal Milla's bracelet. He had been taking his sister's side for so long or doing nothing when his sister bullied me. What could I expect from him? I sneered and reached toward my bag to get my checkbook. I wrote out $1 million in the amount column and signed it. Tearing it off from the book, I threw the check to Milla, slapping her in the face with it. I then turned to look at the Alpha King. Alpha O'Dare, I'm sorry for the disturbance, but I believe it's my time to leave now. Alpha O'Dare's expression was hard, but when he heard my words, his expression eased a little. I should be the one apologizing, Alpha Charlotte. I'm sorry this happens to you in my territory. I'll invite you again in the near future without all these people present. His words made me smile. It was the same as him taking my side, and it was refreshing. No one had taken my side for 3 years, but now I had a whole pack. A dad, friends, and even an Alpha King who took my side. Then I'll be waiting for your invitation, Alpha King. I smiled, nodded as a sign of respect, and grabbed Olivia's hand before dragging her away from the ethereal crown castle. Char, you were amazing. Livy praised me once we were outside the castle. I laughed. It indeed felt good to humiliate Milla like that. But that bastard Hayden still defended that bitch. I won't be surprised if he thought you were trying to steal Milla's bracelet. Livy turned livid once again. I shrugged nonchalantly. Olivia had the same thought as me, and as she said, it wouldn't be a surprise if he believed his bitchy sister. Reaching out, I rubbed her head. All right, don't be angry anymore. You should go home first. Your car is here, I pointed out. "You are not coming with me?" she asked. I shook my head. "I want to walk for a bit. I'll go back with Leo later." We went together with Leo to the meeting. But since the meeting would last until late at night, Olivia had asked her driver to pick her up so Leo didn't need to drive her home. After all, the Mooncrest Pack and the Silent Prowlers Pack were in different directions from the ethereal Crown Castle. "But what if that bitch and bastard make troubles with you again?" she asked worriedly. I assured her that nothing would happen anymore. She didn't want to leave me alone, but after many times of reassurance on my part, she finally got into her car and went home. I watched her car leave before turning to take a walk under the moonless night. "Hayden, look at what that bitch had done to me. How could you let her go easily?" Milla stomped her foot and complained. "Milla, that's enough," I told her sternly. I had to stop her from repeating those disrespectful words. Her behavior tonight didn't reflect her position as the representative of the Red Claw Pack. How could the representative of our pack have such a foul mouth? It was humiliating and a disgrace to the Red Claw Pack. As expected, Milla shut up with a sulky expression after hearing my stern voice. Looking at the current condition of Milla, she was drenched in red wine from her head to her gown. And looking at the broken diamond bracelet and check on the floor, I wondered when my ex-mate changed. She used to be meek and obedient, but she was fierce and merciless tonight. Was that her true self? What else did she hide from me? Suddenly, we heard a she-wolf's voice ring out. I saw Alpha Charlotte's bracelet. It was unique. The design was like veins wrapping her wrist perfectly, and all the diamonds were solitaire of at least a carat. I recognized it as one of the peach blossom jewelry designs. I wanted to buy it, but it was too expensive. It's worth $20 million. Why would she want to steal Milla's bracelet that's worth so much less? The she-wolf words made all of us remember Charlotte's conversation with the Alpha King. Alpha O'Dare himself had recognized Charlotte's bracelet as a product of Peach Blossom Jewelry, the most prestigious jewelry company in the world. And it was kind of like a slap in the face to Milla. I narrowed my eyes at Milla. Did she deliberately frame Charlotte? Feeling my gaze, Milla's face turned red from embarrassment. But she still stubbornly said, "I don't believe it. It must be a fake. She was so poor when she was in our pack. How could she afford a peach blossom bracelet?" Her words only roused discussion amongst the group, and all were in favor of Charlotte. Everyone knew any pieces from the peach blossom jewelry could not be faked. Their details were impeccable. It was impossible for others to even attempt to copy it. Furthermore, I heard some she-wolves say they saw a dangling light orange peach-shaped diamond on the clasp of Charlotte's bracelet, a unique signature from the peach blossom jewelry for each of their design. And no one could fake it. Feeling everyone's hushed discussion and mocking, Milla stomped her foot again. How dare that bitch humiliate me in this alpha meeting? I swear I'll get back to her the next time I see her. She left after cursing and swearing to take revenge on Charlotte, and not forgetting to pick up the check on the floor that Charlotte had thrown to her face. My face darkened instantly. This sister of mine was just too humiliating. How could she use that kind of language and leave without saying anything to the Alpha King, who was still standing before us? She even dared to pick up the check from Charlotte without shame. I clenched my hands and gritted my teeth, looking at my sister's departing figure. She was just too unruly. Taking a deep breath, I turned toward the Alpha King. "Alpha King, I'm sorry for the disturbance my sister had caused." I bowed deeply, showing my sincerity. Alpha O'Dare just waved his hand and said, "Don't let it happen again." Even though his tone was light, it was obviously a warning. He turned and went to another area before I could say anything. My mood was ruined now, and I had no intention of staying anymore. I turned around and walked toward the main door to leave the castle in displeasure. The night was moonless, and the wind was blowing gently. I decided to walk toward my pack instead of taking the car. The distance wasn't that far anyway. I quickly mind-linked Noah and told him to take the car home. The gentle wind breeze couldn't help in clearing my mind. I couldn't help but thought of what had happened at the meeting, how breathtaking Charlotte was and how fierce she was. She clearly showed that she had what it took to be the future alpha of the Mooncrest pack. But how could she be so merciless and humiliate Milla in front of others and the Alpha King? It was like giving a slap to the Red Claw pack, as Milla was one of our representatives. How could she not give a face to her once sister-in-law? But then it was Milla who started it. I heaved out a heavy sigh, not knowing what to think. I kept walking and saw a lone figure walking leisurely, not far away from me. That red dress and silhouette. Charlotte? Remembering that Milla had taken the check from her, I reached inside my suit's inner pocket and took out my checkbook. I wrote the exact same amount as she had written in the amount column, $1 million. Quickening my pace, I caught up quickly with her. Charlotte! I called out her name once I was standing behind her. She looked back and only gave me a brief glance, not even bothering to stop her steps. I grabbed her arm. Charlotte, we need to talk. My action and words finally made her stop in her track. She didn't speak. She just looked at me coldly with her beautiful, deep, dark eyes. Her cold gaze made me uncomfortable, but I was too lost in her beauty to think about it. Seriously, why had I never noticed how beautiful she was? Her red lips looked so tempting, it made me want to have a taste. What do you want? Her voice snapped me out of my thought. She had crossed her arms under her milky, soft breasts, and I nearly lost my mind again, if not for the way she looked at me with annoyance. I handed her the check I had prepared. The Red Claw Pack's members are never short of money. I thought about Milla taking her check, but would never tell her about it as it was humiliating. You should apologize to Milla, I added, since she didn't say anything or take the check in my hand. She smiled sarcastically as if she knew Milla had taken her check, and then sneered. I have told you before, Hayden, and I'll tell you this again. I will never apologize to your bitch of a sister. Charlotte, I growled warningly. What? She asked me with impatience and irritation. Milla was once your sister-in-law. How could you humiliate her in front of so many people? You are cruel and merciless. You should have given her face, I criticized her. She looked at me as if I had just sprouted jokes, and a strange smile of amusement appeared on her stunning face. What are you smiling at? I narrowed my eyes at her. Did she not take this conversation seriously? Lexi was cursing and insulting you, and maybe she's right. You are either blind or stupid, she said lightly. Her words angered me, and I yelled out her name. Charlotte. Her eyes narrowed, and her mouth opened to speak. Hayden, you said I humiliated Milla? She asked. If not, then what is it called? You poured wine over her head, stepped on her bracelets, breaking it in the process, and even threw her a check. I glared at her. Hayden, are you really blind? You were there. I'm sure you saw who humiliated who first. Would I act rashly if not for her being hell-bent on insulting and humiliating me? I opened my mouth to refute her, but her words shut me up. It was true that Milla framed her first, but was there a need for her to go that far? She sneered and continued talking. How many times had this happened, Hayden? How many times had your sister insulted and humiliated me during our marriage? And all those times did I ever fight back? No. Because she's your sister. But Hayden, I'm not your mate anymore. I do not need to take her insults and humiliation without fighting back. I'm a future alpha, and I'm sure you know that we, as alpha, will not tolerate anyone who disrespects us. Will you let anyone who insulted or humiliated you go easily? She then turned around to leave after stating her point without waiting for my answer. I didn't know why, but her words kind of hurt, and I didn't want to let her go. I reached out and grabbed her waist, spinning her around so we were face to face. I saw the world become blurry, and I nearly lost my balance as Hayden spun me around and trapped me in his arms. My hands couldn't help but clenched his suit to stop myself from falling. I looked up and realized how close our faces were. Although I was tall, Hayden still towered over me. Even with my high heel, the top of my head only reached his nose. I looked up at the exact moment he looked down, and our breaths mingled together. His dark eyes gazed at me intensely, and they had darkened with desire. My heart started pounding at our nearness, and I tried to push him away, only to have him tighten his arms around my waist, drawing me even closer to him, as though he wanted to fuse our bodies together. My face flushed when I felt something long and hard poking my belly. I became annoyed, not only because of his domineering attitude, but also because of how my body was responding to him. Lottie. Suddenly I heard a screech of a car's tires, and Leo's voice calling me, and I tried pushing Hayden away again. Thank goodness this time he let me go. Leo had mind-linked me, asking me where I was and why didn't I take the car or wait for him when Hayden confronted me and gave me the check. I told him I needed to get some air, so I chose to walk, but Hayden caught up with me. Leo must be worried and rushed over to save me. He had driven the car and parked it beside us before he got off and came toward us. Lottie, your dad, Alpha Ulrich, told me he has something important to discuss with you. It's best for us to return to the Mooncrest Pack as soon as possible, Leo reported. All right. I nodded, and Leo opened the passenger door for me. I went into the car without glancing back at Hayden. When I remembered what Hayden had done, I became irritated once again. Who did he think he was? First at the club and then just now. How could he still have the audacity to hold me intimately and do all those sexual things with me when I was no longer his mate? If Leo hadn't come in time, I was sure he would have kissed me. Did Sofia not give him enough sex? So he came to me thinking I would welcome his advances? I sneered. You could dream on, Hayden. Speaking of Sofia, I hadn't heard anything about her ever since I gave Noah the recording, but I heard it had created a huge scandal for the Red Claw Pack. The members' opinions were now divided into two. Some still defended Sofia, while others had started speaking up for me. But what about Sofia herself? I didn't hear any news of Hayden punishing her. If he had, he should at least have asked Sofia to apologize to me. But did Sofia come to me? No. She must have somehow twisted the fact and acted like a victim again. And Hayden, being the stupid and blind alpha he was, would probably believe in Sofia's words again. I even heard that Hayden especially asked his subordinates to track me down to capture me and let me deal with the scandal. I sneered as I thought about his care for Sofia. It seemed Sofia could do nothing wrong in his eyes, while I was the vicious bitch who framed and hurt his beloved. It was disgusting. Thinking of the way my heart pounded when being in his arms, I began to wonder why my body reacted to him. Maybe I really need to get laid soon, I sighed. Pushing all those things away from my mind, I turned to look at Leo. His side profile showing the outline of his strong jawline was a stunning sight, especially with the lights from the road sometimes highlighting them. It was like I was being teased getting a glance, then being clouded with darkness again, then getting another glimpse when the light shone upon us again. I debated in my mind if I should just fuck Leo, but he was my beta and childhood friend. I was afraid our relationship would change if we did it. Furthermore, if one day he found his mate, he would feel guilty, and I would feel the same way toward his mate too. Why the hell was I thinking about fucking now? I became annoyed again. This was because of that stupid Hayden. Leo, thank you for coming for me at the right time, I told him sincerely to keep my dirty thought away. You don't have to thank me, Lottie. I knew you most being a dilemma while facing Hayden, so it was my duty as your beta to keep you safe. He glanced at me before adding, I think it would be best if you don't talk to him anymore, Lottie. I wanted it to be the case too, but Hayden was now like an annoying fly who hovered around me. I knew we would still meet each other, given we were both alphas. But why couldn't he just leave me alone? I let out a sigh again. What does Dad want to talk to me about? I asked him with curiosity, and tried to change the topic. You'll know when we reach the pack, Leo replied without giving me any explanation. I kept quiet, and soon we reached the Mooncrest pack. Leo and I went straight to my dad's study. Lottie, my dad said just as I settled on my seat. You know that Daddy thinks the Red Claw pack is nothing for us, don't you? Even though their pack is the third strongest, their numbers are still far less than ours, and our warriors are better and stronger than theirs. I kept quiet as I listened to my dad's words. It wasn't actually strange for stronger packs to conquer those weaker than them. Actually, Daddy thinks that the Red Claw pack is easy to conquer. We didn't attack them because you were their Luna at that time. But now that you've come back, Daddy and Leo think it's time for us to conquer them. We'll launch an attack and annex them in the near future, Dad continued. No, I disagreed with my dad's idea straight away. I felt Leo raise an eyebrow at me and shoot me a deep look. I've told you before, Daddy. I don't want to have anything to do with the Red Claw pack anymore. If we annex them, some of their members who survived would become our members. And I'm sure you wouldn't kill Hayden. Most probably, you will imprison him or make him an Omega, which will cause me to have no choice but to have contact with him. I gave them my reason why I didn't want them to launch an attack against the Red Claw pack. My dad and Leo stayed quiet for some time, until finally, my dad nodded in agreement to me against annexing the Red Claw pack. All right, since you are now the alpha of the Mooncrest pack, and in charge of the pack, Daddy will listen to you. I giggled, hearing my dad's words. Even though I was the alpha, he should still have the last words. But he doted on me so much he would give me anything I wanted. I thought our discussion had ended, so I stood up and wanted to go back to my room. But apparently, my dad still wasn't finished. Lottie. I looked at him and saw his serious expression, making me sit back down. Do you still have feelings for Hayden? Is that the reason why you don't want to attack them? He asked in a serious manner. Daddy, I whined. Why would he think that way? He didn't say anything and just scrutinized me with probing eyes. I shook my head, knowing he expected an answer. I've told you so many times that I don't have feelings for Hayden anymore. We are not mates anymore, and we had even prayed to the moon goddess to sever our mate bond, and the moon goddess granted our prayers. And I have explained why I don't want to attack them. My dad sighed. Lottie, it's good that you have become your true self now, confident, gorgeous, and strong. But he paused for a while. Sometimes feelings can't be controlled, no matter how much you want to deny it. What do you mean, Dad? I didn't understand what he was trying to say. Daddy can see the pain in your eyes. And as they said, eyes are the windows to the soul. He stood up and patted my head. It's late now. Go back to your room and sleep. He left after saying those words to me, leaving me confused. Pain? My dad could see the pain in my eyes? The pain of leaving Hayden? Or was he talking about something else? I felt a sense of loss when Charlotte left with her beta. There were just too many questions in my mind. Why didn't I want her to leave? Why did I want to kiss her? Was he her new mate? That thought made me gloomy. Now you regret it. Rhett mocked me with the exact words he had used many times. I ignored him and walked back toward the Red Claw pack, letting the cool breeze clear my mind. When I reached home, I heard Mila conversing with my dad. Dad, I can't believe that bitch actually dared to humiliate me in front of so many important people. And the Alpha King was there, and he actually believed and defended her. Mila complained. She has become more and more uncontrollable. We have to teach her a lesson. I don't believe Alpha Ulrich actually has a daughter like her. Did he not know how to discipline his own daughter? Dad said furiously. Dad, I don't think she's Alpha Ulrich's daughter. If she were his daughter and the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack, he wouldn't let her embarrass the Mooncrest Pack. He would have taught her how to be elegant and classy. But look at what she had done all this time. She keeps behaving like a shrew. She's very vicious and rude. Milla kept insulting Charlotte. I think she's just a rogue and a fake heiress. If not, we would have heard about her a long time ago. Why would Alpha Ulrich hide her for so many years, making people think he only has a son if she's really his daughter? Dad let out his ridiculous thought. Dad, you are right. She must be Alpha Ulrich's sugar baby and not his heiress. After unmating with Hayden, she chose a more powerful alpha, not caring if he's way older than her. She must be doing this to get her revenge on us. She's a really disgusting slut, Milla agreed readily with my dad's ridiculous conclusion. I couldn't stand it anymore and stepped into the living room to stop them from slandering Charlotte. Dad, Milla, did you hear what you were saying? If she's not a real heiress, why would Alpha Ulrich held a banquet, especially to introduce her? I pointed out. It must be because she seduced him and asked him to do it. Milla stubbornly said. Enough, Milla. Do you think a powerful alpha like Alpha Ulrich would just give up his position to a mere mistress? It's obvious that she's his daughter, and you were the one who kept on creating troubles for her. I reprimanded her. Milla looked at me with disbelief. Hayden, did you forget she was the one who pushed Sofia off the cliff and killed our brother's baby? I can't believe you actually defended that murderer and didn't even care about Sofia anymore. She yelled at me and ran away with angry tears streaming down her face while my dad glared at me. I was too tired to deal with my dad, so I just turned around and returned to my room to clean up and sleep. A few days later, while I was in my study dealing with my pack's matter, Noah suddenly spoke up. Alpha, I heard from others that Milla has been looking for wolfsbane, asking if anyone has it. Should we do something about it? Wolfsbane? Wolfsbane was a dangerous herb for werewolves. It could weaken a werewolf and even stop a werewolf's healing ability. I was confused about why she wanted it, but I told Noah to let her be. Milla was just a rebellious, immature teenager. I didn't think she would really use it to harm anyone. Maybe she wanted to use it to protect herself in case she got into a dangerous situation. Furthermore, I couldn't care less about her now. I can't believe you actually defended that murderer and didn't even care about Sofia anymore. Suddenly, Milla's words from a few days ago popped into my mind. She was right. Even though Sofia had explained that she jumped off the cliff by herself because Charlotte provoked her, I still unconsciously distanced myself from her and didn't care much about her anymore. My mind was now filled with only one person, Charlotte. I'd been trying to contact Charlotte ever since she left with her beta, but she blocked my number. I tried using Noah's number, and she blocked it too, once she knew it was me who called. I even brought out several new numbers, only to meet the same end. I went to her pack to see her several times, but the answer was always the same: she wasn't in the pack. I knew they were lying. She was in the pack, but didn't want to see me. She asked her members to turn me away. Noah, how did it go when you went to the Mooncrest Pack and told them we want to collaborate with them? I asked indifferently. Alpha, as usual. They turned it down, Noah replied earnestly. Yeah, I even went as far as pretending to want to talk about collaborations between the two packs, and she still didn't want to see me. It made me frustrated. I was the alpha of the Red Claw Pack. Many werewolves wanted to see me and seek cooperation. But Charlotte ignored me and avoided with, like I was a plague. I used every excuse just to see her, only to be refused each time. For the first time in my life, I felt what it was like to be ignored, and it upset me. Why? Why did she hate me so? I never did anything wrong to her except being indifferent toward her when we were mated, but I never mistreated her except during Sofia's matter. I didn't think my action at that time was wrong. As an alpha, I chose to defend who seemed like the victim. She used to love me so much. So why did she change so fast? Did my action of asking her to kneel and apologize too much for her? But again, I wasn't wrong during that time. I didn't know the truth back then. Why? Why did I yearn and long for her? Fuck. My feelings were inexplicably complex. I didn't know what to think now. I was never wrong. I should have hated her, but in my heart, I still couldn't let her go. What the heck was the matter with me? I shouldn't feel this way. That's it for today, I told Noah. It was late now. We could continue our discussions tomorrow. Shar, you've been working so hard for a few days. Why don't you take time to wind down? I know a lounge that offers live jazz music. It would be nice to relax there, Livy told me as I was piling the documents on my desk into neat piles according to their usage. This wasn't the first time Olivia had asked me out, but since I was always busy managing the pack, I had been declining her. Looking at the neat piles, I finally agreed to go with her. She was right. I needed time to go out and wind down. Working too hard would make me a workaholic with no social interactions, and wouldn't be good in the long run. Especially since my previous encounters with Hayden and Mila, I needed to have fun and forget about them. Which lounge? I asked her. Her eyes lit up as she realized I finally agreed with her to go out. The Midnight Bliss Lounge at the Spirit Pride Pack. The Spirit Pride Pack was famous for its clubs, bars, and lounges. And the Midnight Bliss Lounge was their #1 lounge. I hadn't been there but had heard good things about it. Okay, let me change my clothes first and we'll go. I smiled at Olivia and walked to my bedroom. Livy naturally followed to help me choose my clothes. She chose an elegant silk cocktail champagne dress with thin strings that needed to be tied in a cross-cross pattern at the back to hold the dress together. It reached above my knees, and she assured me the dress wasn't too much for the lounge. She, herself, was dressed in a semi-formal dress. It looked like she was ready for the night and was sure I would agree to go with her. I chuckled at how well prepared Livy was. Okay, let's go. She excitedly pulled me toward her car once I had put on my makeup and was ready to go. Today, Olivia didn't bring her driver, so she would be the one driving. It's been so long since we hung and chilled out together. I missed out times 3 years ago, she said as she drove. 3 years ago. Before I met Hayden, I always spent much time with my friends. Now it seemed like a great time to return to those times again. Olivia kept chatting excitedly during our drive when suddenly, halfway through our destination, we were surrounded by male werewolves, blocking the road with their many numbers. I became alert and vigilant. Were they rogues? I thought to myself. The male werewolves knocked on our car, and some even tried breaking the windows. I knew they wouldn't let us go if we didn't get out and confront them. Livy, stay close to me, and don't let your guard down, I cautioned her before opening my door. Don't worry, Char. I had already mind-linked my pack members, and they would come to help with reinforcement, she said calmly. The Silent Prowlers pack was close to our current location, so I didn't worry about being outnumbered. Furthermore, Livy and I were strong. We might not even need the help of the reinforcement. We got off from the car calmly, confident of ourselves, and ready to fight them if it was they wanted. As I stepped outside, suddenly a familiar scent hit my nostril. That scent. Not rogues, members of the Red Claw Pack, but I'd never seen them before. Oh well, when I was their Luna, I spent my time mainly at Hayden's home, catering to the needs of the 2 bitches Sofia and Mila. So it wasn't strange that I didn't know many pack members. Just as I realized that fact, I saw Mila step up from behind the werewolves. I sneered. This bitch again. Did she not learn a lesson from our previous encounters? Did she think I was still the same weak she-wolf? Was she so dead set on being humiliated and hurt by me? Look, Guys, that's Hayden's ex-mate, your ex-Luna. Mila pointed at me. She's beautiful. One of the male werewolves leer at me with a lewd gaze. She is. She is so fucking beautiful. No wonder Alpha Hayden claimed her as his mate. Another joined in. I was disgusted looking at their perverted gaze. Some of them even stroke their dicks through their pants. Mila snorted. What's the use of being beautiful when in the end she ends up as just a rejected she-wolf? She must be going out with that slutty dress to seduce old men. I rolled my eyes. Did she not have any other words to describe me? Slutty, bitchy, seducing old men. Those words were getting old, and I only felt that she was a stupid she-wolf with a limited vocabulary. Don't be fooled by her appearance. She was the one who pushed Sofia off the cliff and killed her baby. Mila nearly yelled out of anger as she saw her members were lusting after me. Her words were obviously intended to make them hate me. And as expected, all the werewolves glared at me with hatred in their eyes. I saw Olivia's body begin to tremble. Mila's words made her so furious that she was so close to shifting. Her eyes kept changing color between her blue eyes and the golden eyes of her wolf. I moved closer to her and whispered, "Calm down, Livy. If we lose control, they'll win. That's what Mila wants from us." Olivia began to calm down at my words, but her eyes were still burning with anger, and her hands were clenched tightly. "We just need to stall for time and wait for my members to come," she whispered back through gritted teeth. In contrast to Olivia's anger, I was calm. I didn't fear them at all. I could take more than half of them down myself, and Olivia could take care of the rest. I looked at them and mocked. Are the Red Claw Pack members really this stupid? Mila's expression contorted. She looked so ugly I almost laughed out loud. "How dare you say we are stupid?" she roared. I saw the rest of the werewolves, and their hatred toward me had heightened after I accused them of being stupid. "Do you know me?" I sneered. "No, most of you had never seen me before. And yet you believe all the lies and bullshit this bitch was spouting." "You," Mila pointed at me, and her face turned red from anger. "You dared call me a bitch while you are the bitch." I swept my gaze at all the werewolves. "Tell me then. I was the Luna of your pack, but had any of you treated me as one?" They all fell silent, yet still looked at me with a burning hatred. I had never mistreated any of you, yet not only this bitch and Sofia, but some of the other members often treated me like an omega. I continued. I was never treated as the Luna of the pack. Since the moment I was claimed by Hayden, your alpha, this bitch of his sister and mistress had never treated me with respect. She and that mistress, Sofia, treated me as an omega. I had to cater to all their needs, and they loved to insult and humiliate me. So, who's the bitch? A Luna who willingly endured all the humiliation for being treated as an omega because she loved the alpha, or the person who treated the Luna of the pack as an omega? I asked them lightly. We treated you as an omega because you were never worthy of being our Luna? You are a rogue, a weak orphan. Why should we treat you with respect? Mila, of course, would not back down. I looked at her as if she really was a clown. A rogue? A weak orphan? I laughed out loud. Mila, I suggest you go to the hospital to get your brain checked. Did you forget that I am the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack? That I am now the alpha of the Mooncrest Pack? You think we believe that you are the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack? A shrew like you? I know that you are a fake heiress. You must have seduced Alpha Ulrich, become his sugar baby, and asked him to tell the world that you are his heiress? Mila kept mocking and insulting me. Do you know why we always treated you like an omega? Because you are unrespectable. You don't deserve our respect at all, she spat. The corners of my lips twitched into a sneer as I heard Mila's words. A fake heiress? The mistress of my dad? Forcing my dad, my supposedly sugar daddy, to let everyone know I was the heiress of the Mooncrest pack? Unrespectable? Didn't deserve to be their Luna? Was Milla really stupid or too smart that she was able to conjure such stories in her mind? Lexi, why don't we show them your beautiful self? Let them see how powerful you are, I suggested to Lexi. Hell, yeah. I've been wanting to see that botch reaction when she sees my form. Let's see if she could still say all those nonsense. Lexi was excited by my suggestion. I began the process of shifting. My bones cracked as my limbs lengthened. My jaws protruded, and furs began covering my whole body. I was used to shifting, and the process lasted only a few seconds. The moment my human form turned into Lexi's wolf form, I saw the disbelief and fear in Milla's and all the werewolves' eyes. Lexi was a beautiful wolf. As an alpha wolf, she was as big as any other male alpha and had beautiful, pure silver fur. Standing still in our spot, we could see that they were shocked and frightened by Lexi's form. I believed none of them had ever seen such a giant and beautiful wolf before. Lexi was one of a kind. Lexi growled and bared her canines. Our auras were strong and chilling, rendering them frozen in their spots. Ha! Look at them! Some of them nearly wet their pants. And looked at Milla. Look how shocked and frightened she looks. She is the worst among them. Her body is shaking from fright. Lexi laughed. She enjoyed looking at Milla's reactions. Looking at her reaction and expression, I believe we have achieved our goals. Now she wouldn't be able to say that we are weak or not, the heiress of the Mooncrest pack, I said smugly. And she looked jealous. Lexi laughed again. Remember her wolf form? Her wolf looks like a puppy compared to me. Lexi couldn't stop laughing and mocking Milla. I laughed, hearing her ridiculing Milla and her wolf before I shifted back to my human form. Still thinks that I'm not the heiress of the Mooncrest pack? I sneered at Milla. If she still thought that way, then she was hopelessly stupid. Her expression and facial color kept changing from disbelief. Frightened, turning pale, then green, until it became red with anger as usual. I looked at the rest of the werewolves, who still had the same shocked and frightened expressions. As you all can see, I am very respectable. I am the only female alpha in the history of werewolves, and I am strong. I was totally qualified to be your Luna, but the Red Claw Pack does not deserve to have me as your Luna, I told them, with a cold smile. So what if you are the heiress of the Mooncrest pack? You are still a vicious she-wolf who tried to murder your sister-in-law and her unborn baby. I kind of had to applaud her for not wanting to lose, still being so stubborn, and kept accusing me of something I didn't do. Everyone, attack them! She suddenly commanded her followers. The werewolves hesitated for a moment, but then they all shifted into their wolf forms. I shifted in a second and saw Olivia shift too. Olivia's wolf, Cherry, was light brown in color and not as big as Lexi, but she was still stronger than ordinary werewolves, as she had alpha blood running through her veins. Lexi and Cherry charged toward the group of werewolves before they could move even an inch. Some of them had not even finished shifting, and I saw Milla stepping back, away from the fight, still in her human form, as if seeking protection from the werewolves. What a coward! Lexi and Cherry's movements were fast, faster than any ordinary werewolf. Lexi had already bitten one of them on the neck and taken off a chunk of his flesh in the process, while Cherry had bitten one of the werewolves' legs. Our actions seemed to enrage them and lit up their fighting spirit. They started to retaliate and fought back with all their might. Although it was easy to take them down, due to us being outnumbered, Lexi and Cherry still received wounds. But they were nothing to us, just some superficial wounds that wouldn't be able to hinder our movements. A fierce fight started to ensue, especially after Milla kept shouting Aang and encouraging them to fight harder. They really were Milla's followers, who would do anything she said while she, as their leader, was hiding back like the coward she was. Kill them. Kill them, or I'll tell Hayden not to let you guys go and punish you, Mila yelled at the group of werewolves. Hearing that, the werewolves' attacks were getting more and more ferocious. Lexi and Cherry started to get more wounds. They actually dared to gang on Cherry, knowing that she was the weaker of us two. I saw 6 of them lunge toward Cherry, simultaneously with their canines bared, ready to bite Cherry. Lexi, we have to help Cherry. I was worried about her as she was implicated because of Mila's grudge against me. Lexi jumped toward them and managed to injure 2 of them, but it wasn't enough. Cherry was able to bite one of them, but the other 3 sank their teeth into Cherry's 3 legs. Cherry cried out from the pain. Shit. With her 3 legs wounded, it would be difficult for her to move. But Cherry, being an alpha daughter, would not get beaten easily. She persevered and bit them back without caring about her wounds. With Cherry being wounded, Lexi had to protect her while fighting the rest off. But no matter how many werewolves we had wounded, they didn't seem to decrease in numbers. Instead, I felt there were more of them fighting us. I saw Mila's smug smile and knew that she had also sent for reinforcements. This was getting harder for Lexi. We were too outnumbered, and Olivia's reinforcement hadn't arrived to help yet. Lexi, we have to hold on, I told her while she was fighting for werewolves at the same time. You don't have to tell me about it. I'm going to tear Mila off today, she growled. She was as mad at me that Mila ambushed us and even dared to send more werewolves. It seemed she had set her mind to kill us today. We heard Cherry's howl of pain and didn't hesitate to help her. Even though our wounds would heal quickly, with these many werewolves kept against us, they had already inflicted new ones before our previous wounds could heal. Damn it. I hated Mila to my core for asking them to concentrate on injuring Cherry. Lexi, looking at her best friend being surrounded by more wolves than us, was getting angrier by the minute. It was like she went berserk, and her movements became even faster, biting and tearing off the flesh of whoever was trying to harm Cherry. Suddenly, I felt a strange, burning sensation in some parts of my body. I screamed out, and Lexi howled from the excruciating pain. Before we knew it, we felt weakened and dropped to the ground, unable to move. We saw Mila approaching us with an evil smirk while carrying a large knife. Shit, was she the cause of the searing, burning sensations? What did she do to us? Even if we couldn't move and could only wait for Mila's next move, Lexi held back her whimper and stared at Mila with hatred, and her alpha aura rolled off her body. The rest of the werewolves are affected by Lexi's aura and stop their attacks on Cherry. I saw many wounds on Cherry's body, but knew she would heal soon, so I didn't worry too much about her, especially now that Mila's followers had ceased to attack her. While the others were affected by Lexi's cold aura, Mila gritted her teeth and slashed her own arm to regain her mind and get away from being affected by Lexi's cold aura. She walked slowly toward us, and her smile grew even more sinister. I saw Cherry leap to help us, but was stopped and once again surrounded by many werewolves. Once in front of us, Mila laughed maniacally. She really looked like a crazy person determined to kill us at the moment. Look at you lying helplessly on the ground without being able to move or defend yourself. Do you think being the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack is something to be proud of? In the end, you will still be under my mercy. She looked at us condescendingly and gloated. I swear today I will kill you. She roared and raised her arm, holding the large knife, ready to plunge it into Lexi's head. Just as she was about to stab Lexi, we heard a commotion and saw another group of werewolves in an even more significant number arriving. When I saw the new group of werewolves, my heart started pounding. Did Mila ask more people to come? But when I caught their scents, I heaved out a sigh of relief. They were members of the Silent Prowlers Pack. Mila was startled by their large numbers. She dropped the knife she was holding and led her members to run away. Olivia had shifted back into her human form and came to me. I finally shifted back to my human form too, since Mila and her members had left. Shar, you are heavily wounded. What did they do to you? She asked with a worried voice. She wanted to touch me, but I whimpered from the pain. Quick, bring her to the Mooncrest Pack. They have the best doctor there. She's heavily wounded, and her wounds wouldn't heal, Olivia shouted to her members. I felt someone pick me up in their arms before passing out from the excruciating pain. When I came to, I was already in the infirmary of the Mooncrest Pack. Olivia was sitting beside my bed, looking very worried. Shar, you are awake. She threw herself to me, and I saw her eyes were red and swollen as if she had been crying. What happened to me? I asked her in a weak voice. What did Mila do to me? I had never felt so weak during battle before until I dropped to the ground and couldn't move even an inch of my body. And that excruciating pain. She started to launch into a lengthy explanation. I asked them to bring you here since you have the best doctor. When we arrived, Leo was worried sick. We all wondered how you could be severely injured when you have an outstanding healing ability, especially Leo. The doctor then found out that your wounds were covered in wolfsbane? Wolfsbane? No wonder I became weak and felt an excruciating burning sensation on my wounds. And they couldn't heal like usual. I frowned. How did they manage to put wolfsbane on my wounds? For all I remember, we were fighting in wolf forms, and no one had suspicious bottles in their mouths. It was impossible for them to sprinkle wolfsbane using their paws or claws with how fierce we were fighting. It must be Mila. She was the only one who remained in human form, and I remembered her approaching you when you were fighting. She must have sprinkled the wolfbane then. My face and heart turned cold. Mila, oh Mila. You were really determined to kill me, weren't you? How are you feeling now, Shar? Livy asked with concern. Weak, I told her the truth. The doctor had removed the wolfsbane from your wounds. You will be healed soon and recovered, but he said it would take time for you to recover fully. She explained with worry. I smiled at her, although I knew it was just a weak smile. Don't worry about me, Livy. I won't die that easily. And thank you for bringing me here. How about you? How are your wounds? I'm fine, Char. My wounds were nearly healed before we reached your pack, and now I'm good as new, she said. I let out a sigh of relief. Shar, her eyes turned red once again. Thank you for saving me. You wouldn't have so many wounds if it weren't for me. I managed to let out a small chuckle and was able to lift my arm to oat her head. You are my best friend. Of course I will always save you no matter what. It wasn't your fault at all, I assured her. Furthermore, you were implicated because of me. I didn't realize before that Mila really hates me to the point of wanting to kill me. That bitch is too much. How dare she tries to kill you? If my members didn't come on time. Olivia shuddered, and I saw her eyes begin to fill with tears. Yes, I was lucky that her members came on time, or I would have been stabbed by Mila and might not survive. The thought made me shudder too, but I acted fine in front of Livy. She didn't need to know how I thought my life would end then. Hey, don't cry now, Livy. I'm fine now, aren't I? I kept rubbing her head to comfort her. After a while, she calmed down, and a flash of viciousness appeared in her usually innocent eyes. Shar, we shouldn't let her go easily for trying to kill you. I closed my eyes and chuckled. Of course I won't let her go easily. She needs to know the consequences of harming me, or she'll think I'm a pushover. That bitch keeps saying you are a bitch and a murderer while she was the bitch and murderer. Olivia cursed Mila. She looked at me curiously. Shar, you must have a plan to get back at her, don't you? What are you gonna do to her? I looked at the wounds on my arms, legs, and body that were supposed to be already healed, but were now still bleeding. A devious plan came into my mind as I smirked. An eye for an eye, I told Olivia. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded fervently. You should get your revenge. But first, let's hold a party after I recover. Olivia was confused. Why would you hold a party? You know how snobbish and arrogant Mila is. She always thinks she's an elitist, belonging to the upper class, because she's the daughter of Alpha Marcus, with the Red Claw pack backing her. She thinks very highly of herself, I told Olivia. And she nodded, understanding my words. Yet still her expression still showed confusion about my reason for holding a party. I'm going to invite all the Alpha daughters from every pack, I continued, and added with an evil grin. Except for Mila. I'm not going to invite her. Realization dawned on Olivia, and her expression turned gleeful, and she laughed. Let's see how she will react to being the only one not invited to the party. She will lose her place in the upper class. Yep, that was my intention, to make Mila lose her place amongst the Alpha daughters. She should feel humiliated to be the only one who wouldn't get an invitation. I couldn't help but smirk again. Mila's POV. My friends had been talking about a party held for every Alpha daughter since a week ago. I was confused because I didn't receive any invitation. Did my invitation get lost in the mail? No, it was impossible. We never use the mail nowadays. Invitations would always be delivered straight to the pack. So, why didn't I receive it? Mila, what kind of dress you are going to wear? My friend, the daughter of Alpha Shaw of the Silverback Pack, asked in excitement. They had all started to discuss what kind of dress they were going to wear as the party was held tomorrow. I had to pretend that I had received an invitation. I'm not sure yet. I have too many dresses to choose from. I didn't forget to flaunt my wealth. You are so lucky to have so many dresses to choose from, another friend sighed. But no matter what we wear, we will never compare to the host. Alpha Charlotte is too beautiful, and no one can outshine her, another sighed wistfully. The moment I heard Charlotte's name, I knew why I didn't get an invitation. She deliberately wanted to humiliate me. I might not go, though. I just remembered that my dad asked me to do something tomorrow. I pretended to be unable to attend the party. Ah, that's too bad, Mila. I heard the party will be a blast, my friend said. You guys go ahead and discuss your dresses. I need to go now. I feigned a smile at them and bid them goodbye. I went back to the Red Claw pack, sulking because of Charlotte's apparent purpose of excluding me from the Alpha Daughters party. Sofia, who had been silent and cast aside by Hayden, seemed to notice my mood. What happened, Mila? She asked. That slut Charlotte. She's throwing a party for all the Alpha Daughters. Yet she didn't invite me. But even if she invited me, I wouldn't go. I snorted in disdain. Suddenly Sofia grabbed my hand. Mila, you have to go. I will accompany you. This is our chance to show everyone what kind of bitch Charlotte is. Sofia's words successfully convinced me to go to the party. She was right. We had to go and prove to everyone that Charlotte was a bitch. Alpha Charlotte, the ballroom looks so pretty, one of my guests exclaimed. Thank you. It was actually my father's doing, I smiled at her. She and the other guests around us widened their eyes. Alpha Ulrich was the one who prepared everything? She asked in disbelief. Yeah, he said he wouldn't let me be tired of arranging everything, I replied helplessly. Oh my goddess. Alpha Ulrich sure loves you a lot. I envy you, Alpha Charlotte. I wish I had a dad like yours, she said wistfully. Today was the day of my party, and every Alpha daughter came. When I told Dad I wanted to have a party, he insisted on preparing everything, not allowing me to be involved in the planning. The reason was the same as I'd told the guest before. He didn't want me to get tired from organizing the party. I could only agree helplessly when he insisted on it. He wanted to show everyone that the heiress of the Mooncrest pack was doted on by her dad. And to be honest, Dad did a great job. The ballroom was decorated to look like a classy tea party, which was very suitable for young ladies. There were cute and delicious small cakes and teas of many flavors, but champagne was also available to make the party more mature. Many of them started to say how lucky I was, and they praised my dad, the party, the food, and everything else. I excused myself, telling them I still had to take down the gifts for them from the second floor. At the mention of gifts, they began praising me and my dad for being generous. Luckily, Olivia was with me, and I was able to escape those fawning ladies. My dad had really prepared gifts for them. The gifts were the same for everyone, a pair of earrings from Peach Blossom Jewelry. I was helpless against my dad. He really knew how to make me be the best out of all the alpha daughters. I was standing on the second floor with Olivia, looking over the railing to see everyone enjoying the party, when I saw both Mila and Sofia among the guests. I sneered. They didn't receive invitations, yet they still shamelessly came. They still wanted to show everyone they would always belong to the upper class, wouldn't they? But their presence made it easier for me to get my revenge. I smirked when I thought of what I was going to do to them. I asked Olivia to go down and call a waiter and handed her the wolfsbane we had acquired. The wolfsbane had been ground into powder by my members, according to my instruction. When Olivia gave the powdered wolfsbane to the waiter and ordered her to put it in both Sofia and Mila's drinks, I hesitated and wanted to go down and stop her. After all, I still could remember the excruciating pain because of it, and I didn't want anyone to feel the same pain. But then I remembered how heartless Mila was when sprinkling it on my wounds, and she had no remorse about it. She even tried to kill me after that. That thought hardened my determination to do the same thing to her. As for Sofia, this was an act of revenge for all the things she had done to me while I was staying at the Red Claw Pack. I wouldn't forget how she acted like the Luna of the pack and ordered me around like an Omega, and especially the time when she framed me, which caused Hayden to divorce and break our mate bond. Sofia, Mila, be prepared to receive my payback, I smirked. Shar, everything is ready. Olivia came up to the second floor and stood next to me to watch the show. The waiter will personally hand the drinks to Mila and Sofia. The waiter was one of the Omega in my pack, and all the Mooncrest pack members hated Sofia and Mila as much as I hated them. They were very protective of me, their alpha, so they gladly helped me in taking my revenge. I felt thankful to have such loyal members. Shar, when I was down there, I heard Sofia telling everyone how you mistreated her when you were the Luna of the Red Claw Pack. She told everyone how you pushed her off the cliff and made her miscarry because you were jealous of how well Hayden treated her. She was deliberately trying to destroy your reputation in front of all the Alpha's daughters, Olivia said angrily. Really? I asked her with indifference. I wasn't surprised she would do that. It must be the reason they shamelessly crashed my party. Yeah, and Mila was fanning the flame too. Should we go down and teach her a lesson? I smirked. Looking at my smirk and hearing my confident words, Livy knew that I would do something humiliating to Sofia. She agreed readily with a massive grin on her face. She loved it when I took my revenge on people who had wronged me. We walked down the stairs with some of my Omegas carrying trays of the prepared gifts for the guests. And I could see the expressions of the guests that were full of admiration and appreciation before had changed. Some of them looked at me weirdly, while others looked at me with disdain, not even bothering to hide from pointing their fingers at me with accusations, while Sofia had an aggrieved expression, and Mila was staring dagger at me. I walked leisurely toward the champagne tower and took 2 glasses, handing one to Olivia. My Omegas placed the trays of gifts on the empty table beside the champagne tower. Before they left, I called one of them over, handed her a USB drive and whispered some instructions in her ear. Her eyes lit up, and she nodded with a grin before leaving. I conversed with Olivia as if nothing had happened, as if the guests' words and disgusted expression didn't faze me, and they didn't. At all. Suddenly, the soft, melodious music that had been playing in the background of the party stopped, and I smiled. The exciting show was about to begin. "Charlotte, do you think Hayden loves you?" The music was replaced by a conversation between two females. Everyone began to look confused, but they all knew that it was Sofia's voice. The recording kept playing, and everyone heard how Sofia said she would jump off the cliff and told Hayden I was the one who pushed her, so that Hayden would chase me off the pack. I asked my Omega to keep playing the recording in a loop, so that everyone could hear everything clearly over and over again. I looked at Sofia, whose face had turned pale. I smiled at her and raised my champagne glass toward her, provoking her. Once the shock had left all the guests' minds, the disdain and weird looks that were directed at me were now directed at Sofia. Every alpha daughter now knew Sofia's true intention of wanting to be the Luna of the Red Claw Pack, using vicious means, without even caring for the unborn baby in her belly. They began to whisper and accused Sofia of being ruthless, and distanced themselves from both Sofia and Mila, which made me smirk. Sofia was humiliated and tried to pull Mila with her to leave the party, but of course, Mila being Mila, would still try to frame me. That's not true. Charlotte was the one who provoked Sofia first, which was why Sofia did it. Mila tried to defend Sofia, but we all heard Sofia's smug voice and Alpha Charlotte's confusion. If Alpha Charlotte were the one who provoked her first, Sofia wouldn't be that confident and smug while saying all those things, one of the Alpha daughters blurted out. I admired her for being able to see the truth. Mila kept trying to convince the Alpha daughters, but no one would believe her now that they had heard the recording. She knew then she had lost the case and even lost her beautiful and wealthy friends. Charlotte, you bitch. Don't think this matter has ended here. She cursed me before leaving with the humiliated Sofia. Seeing them leaving and knowing that they had drunk the wolfsbane, I mind-linked some of my members and gave them an order. Track them down and follow them. Do what Mila did to me. Attack them when no one is around, but make sure not to let them die. Just injure them severely, as they did to me. Make sure they can still return to the Red Claw Pack. All right, Alpha, they said in unison, and I closed the mind links. Even though Mila had tried to kill me, I wouldn't do the same to her. If I let my members kill her, I had to have contact with Hayden, which I had tried hard to prevent from happening ever since our last meeting at Alpha O'Dare's castle. I was shocked when a pack member mind-linked me to say that Mila and Sofia had just arrived at our pack as if they had just been attacked and were severely injured. Going to the pack's entrance, I saw many wounds on their bodies, and they looked very weak. It looked like they had used up all their strengths just to return to the pack, and had nearly fainted. I was worried looking at their conditions, and asked my subordinates to bring them to the pack's infirmary as fast as possible. With hurried steps and concern for their safety, I followed them. The doctors and nurses looked shocked when they saw Mila and Sofia's weak and wounded state. Doctors, treat them. I ordered all the doctors present. The doctors began checking for their wounds and found out they were weak, not only because of the wounds on their bodies. They thought Mila and Sofia were poisoned, and one of them quickly drew up their blood to do a blood test. Alpha, the wounds on Mila and Sofia's bodies were heavily laced with wolfsbane. One of the doctors who were checking them said. At the exact moment, the blood test came back, and the doctor who had the result rushed in and said nearly the same thing. Alpha, there are traces of wolfsbane in their blood. I think they had drunk wolfsbane, and it started to cause damage to their organs. My eyes widened in shock. Wolfsbane? Didn't Mila search for wolfsbane not long ago? What was happening? How did they get into this state? I had a dreadful feeling that Mila had tried to use the wolfsbane on Charlotte, and she must have succeeded. And this was Charlotte's way of retaliation. My father, who had rushed here after knowing what happened, heard the doctor's words and was also shocked. To make matters worse, The doctors said they were incapable of cleaning the wolfsbane from Milla and Sofia's wounds, and couldn't get rid of the wolfsbane in their blood in a short time. This would endanger both of their lives. Members had gathered outside the ward, looking at what had actually happened, and most probably going to gossip about this. "Where did they go before?" he asked everyone who was present. I had the same thought as my dad. Where did they go tonight? Who did they offend? With the severity of their wounds and the wolfsbane present in their bodies, it wouldn't be just a simple fight. One of the members outside the ward stepped forward. It seemed she knew where Milla and Sofia had gone tonight. "Alpha Marcus, Alpha Hayden. I heard from Milla before that they were going to a party thrown by Charlotte at the Mooncrest Pack." My dad's body began shaking. His face turned red and contorted into such an ugly expression. His alpha aura rolled off in waves from his body, making everyone scared and look down, baring their necks in submission. Hearing that Milla and Sofia had gone to Charlotte's party, he was livid, while I had a complex feeling about this. That bitch, Charlotte. This must be her doing. Hayden, bring Noah and your subordinates to the Mooncrest Pack and bring Charlotte here. She must be taught a lesson for causing this, my dad roared. Seeing that I didn't move from my spot, Dad glared and roared at me. Being an alpha myself, especially now that I was the alpha of the Red Claw Pack and not my dad anymore, I was able to fight off his alpha aura and didn't submit to him. "What are you still doing here? Go to the Mooncrest Pack, now." He kept roaring. I frowned. "Dad, Charlotte is the daughter of Alpha Ulrich. It won't do us any good to barge into their territory and force her to come here." I tried to make him remember that Charlotte was different now. She had the backing of the Mooncrest Pack. Hearing my words, my dad suddenly fell silent. His rage subsided a little, and he looked like he was in a dilemma. I knew what he was thinking. If we barged in and demanded to take Charlotte here, the Mooncrest Pack might wage war with our pack. The Red Claw Pack was not a match to the Mooncrest Pack in terms of numbers and strength. It would be the same as suicide if we went to war with them. Furthermore, the two packs had an agreement to work together to deal with and get rid of the rogues on this continent. Sofia had passed out due to the pain, but Milla, although in a weak state, was still awake and crying. "Dad, Charlotte did this to us. You have to kill her." Even though her body was weak, her voice was still clear enough for everyone to hear, and there was hatred and determination in her cry. For once, my dad didn't listen to Milla and even for angry and scolded her for her unreasonable demand. "You stupid girl. You must be the one who provoked her first, didn't you? How many times are you going to provoke her? This all happened because of your own doing. If you didn't provoke her, she wouldn't have done this to you. You should stop provoking her from now on." Milla's cry became louder and more hysterical since this was the first time my dad had scolded her for Charlotte. I watched my dad reprimand Milla and the messy scene with a cold look when Charlotte's previous words suddenly echoed in my mind. How many times had your sister insulted and humiliated me during our marriage? It made me realize that Milla had been causing trouble for Charlotte ever since I claimed her as my mate, and even after we had divorced. Every time Milla saw Charlotte, she kept on trying to humiliate and cause trouble for Charlotte. So my dad's words were reasonable. It must be Milla and Sofia's fault. They must have somehow provoked Charlotte, or worse, Milla had used the wolfsbane she had acquired last time on Charlotte, and this was just Charlotte's way of taking revenge. My body shuddered when I thought Charlotte had gone through the same thing as Milla did now. She must be in so much pain, which made me angry at Milla. Alpha Hayden, one of the doctors, suddenly approached me. I snapped out of my reverie and gave him a cold look, making him tremble and cower. "What?" I bark at him. We don't have a way to save them. We are not capable enough to do it. We can't get rid of the wolfsbane on their wounds and in their blood. he said with a trembling voice. But the doctor from the Mooncrest pack might be able to save them. He is the best doctor on the continent. I think you should get the Mooncrest pack's doctor to come here. The Mooncrest pack was famous for having the best doctor who could cure nearly every wound and disease. My dad, who stood near us, heard the doctor's words. Hayden, you should go to the Mooncrest pack and ask Charlotte to lend us their doctor, Dad said. Talk to her gently. Don't force her, my dad added, which shocked the life out of me. It seemed Dad knew how important Charlotte was now that she was the heiress of the second strongest pack. Before the doctor and my dad told me to go get the Mooncrest pack's doctor to come here and save Milla and Sofia, I had already had it in my mind to go there. We needed their doctor to save Milla and Sofia. It was an undeniable fact. I also had other reasons to go to the Mooncrest pack. After being rejected so many times by Charlotte to see her and practically being ignored by her, this was my chance to see her. I didn't want to admit it, but deep in my heart, I had a strange feeling of missing her and was desperate to see her. Don't worry, Dad. I'll try my best to persuade Charlotte to lend us their doctor, I promised my dad. Everyone knew it was kind of an impossible task. Milla had provoked and hurt Charlotte so many times it would be difficult to convince her to lend us her doctor. But I had to try my best, as it was the only way to save Milla and Sofia now. Everyone looked at me with expectations in their eyes. They were placing their hopes on me. Without further ado, I left the infirmary and got into my car to drive to the Mooncrest pack. My heart started pounding at the thought of meeting Charlotte after so long of not seeing her. Alpha Charlotte, Alpha Hayden is here. A guard mind linked me. Send him away, I reply without hesitation. He's determined to see you. He said it's important, the guard said. I sighed in annoyance. He must know that I was the one who hurt Milla and Sofia and was going to ask me to apologize. Well. He had been trying to meet me ever since the Alpha's meeting, but I had always turned him down. Since this was important, I might as well see him and show him my stance. Send him to my study, I told the guard. All right, Alpha, the guard replied, and I closed the mind link. A while later, I heard 2 sets of footsteps and could smell Hayden's scent before he even entered my study. The guard knocked, and I answered, Come in. The door was opened, and my guard appeared before bowing to me, letting Hayden enter and closing the door behind him, giving me and Hayden privacy to talk. I looked at Hayden and was in a daze for a few seconds. He was still as handsome as ever, wearing a pair of black pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, showcasing his strong forearms, and a few buttons of his shirt were opened, giving me a peek of his muscular chest. I snapped out of my daze and suddenly had a sense of impatience. I didn't give him any respect by standing up from my seat behind my desk. Instead, I flipped my hair over my shoulder and folded my hands over my breasts. Hayden, I'm sure you came here to meet me because of Milla and Sofia. I admit that I was the one who asked the waiter to give them drinks laced with wolfsbane and let some of my members attack them and purposely sprinkled wolfsbane on their wounds, I admitted, before he could say anything. But as I'd said many times, I will never apologize to Milla. Or Sofia. Milla ambushed Olivia and me a while ago, letting some of your members attack us. And guess what? She sprinkled wolfsbane on my wounds, and when I was weakened and could move, she tried to stab my head with a knife. She tried to kill me. If not for Olivia's members coming to rescue us at the critical moment, I would have died in Milla's hand, I said with hatred and disdain. I waited for him to ask me to apologize to Milla and Sofia, as he had always done. But to my surprise, he just stood there saying nothing while staring at me with a complex expression. His action, or lack thereof, made me speechless. I had told him everything I wanted to say, so I stood up and walked toward the door, intending to leave. But his hand grabbed mine. I turned around to see him and sneered. "What do you want?" "I told you I won't apologize to them. Charlotte, I come here to tell you we need your doctor's help," he said gently. I gaped at him. This was the first time he had ever used a gentle tone while talking to me. But his words made me realize that he was doing it so that I would lend him the Mooncrest Pack's famous doctor to treat Mila and Sofia. To tell you the truth, even our doctor is unable to clean wolfsbane from wounds, and especially from those that had been ingested. I mocked him with a lie. Hayden frowned upon hearing my words, and his expression turned cold. "Charlotte, I know you are lying to me. Let your doctor come with me to treat Mila and Sofia, or you'll know the consequences of defying me." He turned into his usual arrogant and cold self and threatened me. Instead of being afraid of his threat, I laughed out loud. "Hayden, what do you think you can do to me?" "Hurt me? Are you sure you are brave enough to do anything to me and led the Red Claw Pack to be annihilated by the Mooncrest Pack because of it?" "I'm the alpha of the Mooncrest Pack. I don't have to obey any of your demands. And my answer regarding letting my doctor go to your pack is still no," I sneered and stood my ground. Hayden suddenly slammed me to the wall with enough force to knock the breath out of me, but not enough to hurt me. "Charlotte, Mila is my family. She was once your sister-in-law. Why are you always being merciless?" He snarled. "Merciless? I was being merciless?" His words somehow felt like a knife that stabbed on my heart. I felt a pain in my heart and couldn't stop the tears that started to gather in my eyes. Hayden was shocked, looking at my teary eyes, and stepped back. His expression turned awkward, and he seemed not to know what to do. "Hayden." I tried to show him I was strong, not letting the tears fall, and that his words didn't hurt me, but my trembling voice betrayed me. "You said that I'm merciless?" I asked him. "Did you not think of the 3 years we had spent together? I tried to be a good mate and Luna to you. I loved you with all my heart and cared for you. I even became an omega for your sister and mistress. But what did I get from you? You treated me like I was a nobody. You let Mila and your mistress bully me, not stopping them every time they humiliated me." At the memories, the tears I had tried to hold back finally spilled from my eyes. "Your sister tried to kill me, and now I just gave her a small taste of what she had done to me. I even specifically told my members not to let them die, while Mila held a large knife and was ready to plunge it into my head at that time. Now I refuse to let my doctor treat them because they deserve it." I was so hurt that I spoke out all my grievances. "Hayden, ever since you claimed me until just now when I didn't obey you, you still dare to threaten me. So tell me, Hayden, am I the merciless one?" "No, you are the one who has been merciless since 3 years ago up until now." Hayden looked at me and opened his mouth to say something, but closed it again. He seemed to realize that he was indeed the merciless one. I wiped the tears from my face. "Please leave. I don't ever want to see you again." He stood still as if my words had frozen him in his spot, so I turned around and was the one who left my study without looking back at him. I saw some guards and told them to escort Hayden away from my study, not forgetting to order them never to let Hayden step foot on the Mooncrest Pack's ground anymore. I went back to my room and threw myself on my bed. My tears dropped from my eyes again, wetting the bedsheet. I couldn't believe that he said I was merciless. I tried hard to love and please him, and even endured all the humiliation from Mila and Sofia. This time I took my revenge because they were the ones who hurt me first. It wasn't wrong for me not to want to help them, but I was just a merciless she-wolf in his eyes. My heart was filled with pain again, and I let myself cry. After my tears dried, my heart turned colder than before. I wouldn't back down anymore. Hayden was a bastard who didn't know how to cherish his mate, and instead thought of his mate as merciless. Yes, we were no longer mates, but from his words, It was evident that he had thought of me as merciless, since I was still his mate. I hardened my heart. No matter how he begged me to save Milla and Sofia, I wouldn't do it. I was already merciful enough not to kill Milla. I didn't do anything wrong. I just paid them back for everything they had done to me, for all the bullying, framing, and humiliation they did to me. Milla and Sofia deserved what I had done to them. They were the ones who kept on provoking me and trying to destroy my reputation by calling me a bitch and slut, even going as far as saying that I was a fake heiress and my dad's mistress. I swore I would never let my doctor help them, and this would be the last time I shed tears for Hayden. I swore I would never let Hayden's words affect my feelings anymore. Never. Lottie, I heard Nate's anxious voice while I was going to my study. I turned around and was shocked to see him with a man who was in a bad condition. He had bruises all over his body, and even his face was swollen beyond recognition. Nate, what happened? I hurriedly went to him and the badly bruised man. The badly wounded man spoke before Nate could answer me. Alpha Charlotte, I am a doctor from the Red Claw Pack and Nathaniel's friend. I was surprised to hear that he was a doctor from the Red Claw Pack. What caused him to be bruised beyond recognition? I was unable to help or cure Milla and Sofia, so Alpha Marcus punished me and was going to revoke my position as the Pack's doctor and make me into an Omega, he explained, as though he could read my mind. I wasn't surprised to hear that Alpha Marcus punished him. Alpha Marcus, aka Hayden and Milla's dad, was known to be ruthless. It wasn't out of his character to punish this doctor, especially when it concerned his beloved daughter-in-law. I had no other choice but to ask for Nathaniel's help since I know that he is close to you. I'm sorry, Alpha Charlotte, but I really have no other choice. If I don't bring back a doctor who could cure Milla and Sofia, I'll be doomed. The doctor apologized with a guilty expression. You don't have to apologize. It's not your fault. You only want to keep your profession as a doctor to help and cure people. I can understand your thought and distress, I assured him. The doctor looked at me with shock, but it soon turned into one of gratitude. You are not going to let the Moon Crest Pack's doctor cure those bitches, are you? Nate growled, as though he would be angry if I let the Moon Crest Pack's doctor cure Milla and Sofia. No, I won't, I said with determination. Then, Nathaniel, can you help me? You are a great doctor, too. I'm sure you can cure them, the doctor asked, in a careful tone. I'm not going to cure those bitches. Nate growled again. They are Charlotte's enemy. I was grateful that Nate was loyal to me, but as I looked at the badly bruised doctor, my heart was filled with a dilemma. If Nate didn't help him, the doctor would lose his position and become an Omega. It wouldn't be a surprise if, when he became an Omega, he would be abused. For a doctor, curing and saving people's lives were their passion. Could I let this doctor let the purpose of his life? After careful deliberation, I sighed and turned to look at Nate. Nate, I think you should help him, I told him. Nate looked at me as if I had gone crazy. He couldn't believe that I would ask him to cure my enemies. Nate, you are also a doctor. If, in the future, someone wants to revoke your license and turn you into an Omega, would you willingly let them be? I asked him softly, hoping he would understand why I chose to let him cure Milla and Sofia. He looked at me long and hard with his beautiful dark eyes as he finally shook his head helplessly. Lottie, you're just too kind. You want to help this doctor instead of curing Milla and Sofia because he is an innocent werewolf, don't you? I looked at him and smiled. Nate could always understand my thought. His guess was correct. The doctor was innocent. I didn't want him to be undergraded as an Omega. You should go with him to the Red Claw Pack, but do it secretly, I told Nate. I didn't want the Red Claw Pack to know I agreed to let my friend help them. The doctor could take the recognition as the one who cured Milla and Sofia. It wasn't a big deal for me and Nate. Nate nodded, understanding my thought and agreeing with my request for him to help cure Mila and Sofia. "But Lottie," Nate said, and looked at me with hesitation. I raised an eyebrow at him. He never hesitated to say anything to me. What he was going to say now must be difficult for him to convey to me. "Just tell me," I told him when he still didn't continue his sentence. It seemed really difficult for him to tell me what was on his mind. I looked at him calmly and unleashed a little bit of my alpha aura toward him to show him that I had become impatient. Even though he wasn't from my pack, an alpha unleashing their aura could still affect even those who were not from their pack. He sensed my alpha aura and knew I was impatient, and it was important for him to tell me what he was thinking. "I need you to come with us to the Red Claw Pack," he finally said. I frowned, not understanding his purpose in asking me to go with them. "Why would I need to go with them? I need your blood, just a drop will do. You have an alpha blood. Alpha blood is powerful and can help in curing their wounds, whatever the wounds on the surface, or in curing their failing organs," he explained. "WHAT?" My eyes widened in disbelief. To ask Nate to help them was one thing, but to let them have my blood, even only a drop. They were my enemies. They had been torturing me. To give them my blood seemed far too good for them. Sensing my reluctance, Nate didn't say anything. He didn't even try to persuade me into giving my blood. He knew I hated Mila and Sofia. He was only saying it because he knew my blood was precious and could really help them. But he still gave the last decision to me. As I was lost in thought, the doctor from the Red Claw Pack suddenly dropped to his knees, shocking both me and Nate. "Doctor, what are you doing?" I reached out to help him get back to his feet, but he shook his head and grabbed onto my hands tightly. "Alpha Charlotte, please come with us to the Red Claw Pack. Please help me. I don't want to be an Omega. Being a doctor is my life purpose. I can't be an Omega," he begged me with tears streaming down his face. I knew he was scared of losing his life purpose, but, "Please, Alpha Charlotte, I really don't want to be an Omega. They will abuse me my whole life if that happens." The doctor started sobbing. I glanced at Nate only to see him sigh helplessly. As a doctor himself, Nate could sympathize with this bruised and battered doctor. Looking at the doctor's hands that were grabbing mine, I realized some of his fingers were crooked. It was obvious that Alpha Marcus had broken some of his fingers. I became angry. How heartless was Alpha Marcus to break a doctor's fingers? For doctors, their hands and fingers were important. They needed them to perform their duties, such as doing surgeries. I looked at the pitiful doctor again. "Please, Alpha Charlotte, please, help me. You are my only hope," he kept begging me. In the end, I nodded and agreed to go with them. Nate helped me to pull the doctor to his feet, and the doctor kept bowing and thanking me. "I'll be sure to repay your kindness, Alpha Charlotte. If you need my help, just come to me. I'll do it as long as it's within my capabilities." I smiled at him and asked him to lead us to his car. "Lottie, are you sure you want to do this?" Nate asked me softly. "I'm not helping Mila and Sofia. I'm helping your friend. It would be a pity if they made him into an Omega. Alpha Marcus is just too ruthless, and I can't bear the thought of him being abused all his life," I answered Nate. Nate placed his hand on my bead and rubbed it lovingly. "You are really kind, Lottie. The Moon Crest Pack is lucky to have an alpha like you." I sighed helplessly while feeling Nate's loving touch. "We need to be discreet when we reach the Red Claw Pack." "I don't want them to know that we are helping them," I told both Nate and his friend. "Leave it to me, Alpha Charlotte. You don't have to worry about it," the doctor said confidently, and he drove us toward the Red Claw Pack. I still couldn't shake off the image of Charlotte's tears and the pain in her eyes when I asked her why she was always merciless. Her words also kept replaying in my mind. Thinking of our 3 years together, I remembered that Mila used to humiliate Charlotte. Even Sofia did too. They really treated her like an omega while she was supposed to be their Luna. Yet Charlotte always complied with all their demands and never complained at all. And I, as her mate and the alpha of the pack, didn't do anything to protect my Luna. I even told her once that what Mila said about her being poor was true. Thus, there was nothing I could do to defend her. The thought made my heart feel uncomfortable, and I rubbed my hand over my heart, not knowing how many times I'd done it ever since I had divorced Charlotte. "You deserve it," Rhett mocked me. "You deserve to be ignored by her and feel hurt." "Rhett," I growled out in warning. I didn't want to hear him mocking me while I was feeling distressed. I walked toward Mila's ward, wanting to check on her condition, when I saw the pack's doctor walking in the same direction. But he looked cautious. He kept looking around as if to ensure that no one saw him. I narrowed my eyes. Was he going to do something terrible to Mila? But then I saw him gesturing with his hand, as though he was inviting someone to join him once he was sure no one noticed him. That was when I saw Charlotte and another man. I furrowed my eyebrow. Where had I seen that man? Suddenly, it clicked on me that I had seen him at the club before. He was the one who punched me and gave his shirt to Charlotte to cover her bare lower body. That guy had a hand on Charlotte's lower back, and she didn't swat his hand away as they moved quickly toward Mila's ward, not knowing that I had noticed them. I felt annoyed when I saw them together, especially how he seemed protective of Charlotte and their intimate positions. I didn't know how to describe my feelings, but I felt like separating them and ripping his arms away so he couldn't touch Charlotte anymore. Who is he? Why is he together with Charlotte and touching her? Rhett suddenly growled menacingly in my mind. He was feeling as furious as me. "Stop right there." Finally, I couldn't take it anymore as Rhett's anger fused with mine and stopped them. The three of them stopped in their tracks and turned to look at me. I walked quickly toward them, glaring at Charlotte and the man. That man didn't even move his hand away from Charlotte's lower back. Instead, he moved closer, as if I was a threat to Charlotte, and he was a prince, charming, protecting the damsel in distress. It was evident that they had a close relationship, and it irritated me. My glare became more frightening, and the doctor turned pale as he saw me approaching. He panicked as he realized they had been discovered. And worst, by me, his alpha. All Alpha Hayden. This is Nathaniel Gardner, my good friend. He is a doctor from the Silent Prowlers pack, and is nearly as excellent as the doctor from the Mooncrest pack. The doctor explained fast, his voice laced with panic. I've heard of his name and reputation as an excellent doctor, and I didn't fucking care even if this Nathaniel Gardner was more superior to the Mooncrest pack's doctor. At this time, I already hated him because of his closeness to Charlotte. Nearly as excellent as the Mooncrest pack's doctor? I looked at Nathaniel up and down and said with disdain and a hint of mocking. He was handsome with a great body. Was he another one of Charlotte's new fuck buddies? Yes, Alpha. He's here to help cure Mila and Sofia, the doctor stuttered. I snorted with disdain before finally looking at the doctor and said sternly, "Not any Tom, Dick, and Harry could treat Mila and Sofia. Didn't we ask you to invite the Mooncrest pack's doctor here? Hayden, other than blind, are you also deaf?" I heard Charlotte's voice before the doctor could answer my question. "Haven't I told you I would never let the doctor for my pack treat Mila and Sofia?" Charlotte's words angered me so much. She said that I was blind and deaf, and in front of one of my pack members. She didn't show me any respect at all and insulted me in front of the doctor, and that Nathaniel. "Charlotte," I roared out her name. "Why are you always trying to hurt my family?" I asked her furiously, forgetting that I had made her cry and hurt her with similar words before. Charlotte sneered. "It seemed there is something wrong with your brain, Hayden. You should get it checked." I growled at her. How dare she keep saying humiliating words to me in front of my own pack member and that man? "You seem to have dementia or something." Did you forget we had this conversation before? It was your family and mistress who always started troubling and hurting me, she said as she looked at me with disgust. Dementia? My face darkened, and I laughed out loud from anger. Charlotte needed to be taught a lesson, I thought to myself, and stepped toward her furiously. Suddenly I heard the sound of bones snapping, and a wolf appeared before me. I stared at the wolf in disbelief. That Nathaniel had just shifted into his wolf form to protect Charlotte. Nathaniel bared his canines and snapped them, snarling and growling at me. He shifted without caring where he was. He shifted in the middle of the Red Claw pack, where with just a mind link from me, hundreds of wolves would be ready to fight him. Yet he didn't care. And that was because he thought I was going to hurt Charlotte? I had to compliment him for his bravery, but his action of shifting, because he thought I was going to hurt Charlotte, made me believe that their relationship was not as simple as only being friends. The anger in my heart piped up again, and I clenched my fists so hard that we all could hear the sounds of my knuckles crackling. I looked at Nathaniel's wolf form. He was dark brown in color with black fur only around one of his eyes. That one spot of black fur made him look menacing, and it somehow reminded me of a pirate who had an eye patch over one eye. His wolf was big, but nowhere as big as an alpha. His size was no match for Rhett, and his aura was nowhere as menacing as Rhett's. We could take him down easily. Looking at the wolf in front of me, who was blocking my way to Charlotte, I wondered why Rhett was quiet and didn't try to take control of my body. "I'm not going to fight him," Rhett said as he could read my mind. "He's not worth it," he snorted smugly. "Why? Don't you feel jealous? He and Charlotte are obviously more than friends. Look at him protecting her as soon as I wanted to approach her." I scowled at Rhett, who, at this time, should feel angry looking at that man being overprotective of Charlotte, but still not wanting to fight. I felt a shift in Rhett's emotion. I knew my provocative words would stir up his jealousy. Rhett was still obsessed with Charlotte until now. Heck, he wasn't the only one still feeling possessive of Charlotte, even though we were no longer mates. "Are you sure you don't want to fight him, knowing he might have fucked her?" I kept provoking Rhett to rouse his anger. As expected, hearing my words, Rhett began howling with anger and ready to take control of my body, and I grinned with satisfaction. I really wanted to hurt that bastard for being close to Charlotte, and with Rhett on my side, he would be dead meat in no time. The dark brown wolf, with a black patch in front of us, kept snarling, ready to lunge at us the moment we made a move. His action only furthers Rhett's annoyance and anger. "If he wants to take her from us, we'll fight him," Rhett growled. "Then let's fight," I told Rhett, letting him take over my body, shifting into Rhett's majestic, pure black wolf form. I was stunned when I saw Nate shift into his wolf form. I didn't expect him to shift just because Hayden was coming toward me with rage in his eyes. I never knew Nate could be so protective. Kai, his wolf, was beautiful in my eyes, especially because of the black fur surrounding one of his eyes. Of course, he was not as powerful as an alpha wolf, but he was great at tactics. He could defeat his opponents through tactics alone. Hayden's eyes were wide with surprise as he saw Kai. He must not have expected Nate to shift just to protect me. I saw him grin as if he was going to enjoy fighting Kai, or it might be because he looked down on Kai. Whatever the reason for his grin, he shifted into Rhett not long after. Rhett was the most beautiful black wolf I had ever seen. His eyes, unlike others, were a combination of silver and gold. Although most alpha wolves were also black in color, but no one had fur as shiny as Rhett. Rhett snarled at Kai and lunged toward him without any notice. Kai must have sensed it, as he was able to dodge. Call me crazy, but I was amazed looking at the two beautiful wolves fighting. Rhett was aggressive in his attacks, but Kai was more composed and calm, although he was still snarling and growling. knowing he wouldn't be able to defeat Rhett. Kai began to use one of his tactics. He purposely lunged and then withdrew, even letting Rhett injure him on purpose. Having seen this tactic, I knew he was trying to drain Rhett's energy. He would make Rhett exhausted as he could be, and attack him at the same time. Since Rhett was the type to attack ruthlessly, he didn't realize what Kai was doing. It was really amazing to see Kai in action. Their battle was fierce, with both of them sustaining many injuries. The claw marks and red blood dripping from their wounds only made them look more wicked. Alpha Charlotte, you have to stop them. This is the Red Claw Pack. It wouldn't be good for Nathaniel, the doctor said nervously. Only then I remembered that we were indeed in Hayden's territory, and the doctor was right. If Hayden asked his pack members to come, Kai would be dead for sure. What's happening here? Suddenly I heard a booming, angry voice before I could ask Nate to stop fighting. Alpha Marcus. The other wolf is Nathaniel Gardner, the excellent doctor from the Silent Prowlers pack, and Alpha Charlotte's friend. I was the one who asked them to come help in curing Milla and Sofia. Please stop them from fighting, or the hospital will be ruined, the doctor explained and begged Hayden's father. I looked around and saw that the walls of the hospital had many claw marks, and some were even dented. But there wasn't much destruction. I felt Alpha Marcus's gaze on me, and I returned his gaze indifferently. He wasn't my father-in-law anymore, and his pack was weaker than mine. I didn't have to be afraid of him anymore. He opened his mouth, and I was ready for his anger, but what he said shocked me. Hayden, Rhett, stop fighting this instant, he said with his alpha tone. Rhett was jumping toward Kai, but suddenly stopped short before he reached Kai. He snarled and shifted back into Hayden. I saw Nate shift back after he saw Hayden's human form. I blushed, looking at the two perfectly muscular naked men. Both Nate and Hayden were panting and injured. They looked exhausted, more so Hayden, because of Kai's tactic during their fight. Quick, bring some clothes for Nate, I told the doctor. I sensed Hayden's disappointment, as I only cared about Nate and not him. But I didn't care. The doctor looked at Alpha Marcus as if seeking for permission, and hurried to find clothes for Nate after Alpha Marcus nodded at him. Hayden, what do you think you were doing? Why were you fighting with Nathaniel Gardner? Don't you want your sister and Sofia to be cured? And he is Charlotte's friend. You shouldn't make trouble for Charlotte and her friends. Alpha Marcus scolded Hayden. I was shocked beyond words. As far as I could remember, Alpha Marcus always looked down on me. He was always strict and would make things difficult for me. So, him scolding Hayden and siding with me at this moment was unbelievable. The doctor came at this time and brought 2 sets of clothing. Nate and Hayden quickly wore their clothes, and I heaved out a sigh of relief. It was uncomfortable to be surrounded by 2 handsome, naked men. Although I'm a she-wolf, and it was natural to be naked after shifting, I still feel awkward looking at naked men. My wrist was suddenly grabbed, and I saw Hayden's angry face. What's your relationship with him? I looked straight into his bottomless dark eyes and lied smoothly. Nate is my second-chance mate. Hayden froze upon hearing my answer, and I saw Nate's surprised expression from the corner of my eyes. Luckily, he went along with my lie. He grabbed Hayden's wrist and pushed it away from mine before taking me into his arms. Don't touch my girl, Nate growled threateningly. He touched my hand and lifted it to check the bruise that had formed on my wrist because of Hayden's tight grip. Are you okay, Lottie? Does it hurt? He asked with concern. No, it doesn't hurt. I shook my head. It would heal in a while, so it didn't matter. Nate then took me in his arms again. It's good that you are not hurt, or I'll blame myself. But you have to tell me if it hurts, okay? You don't have to pretend to be strong in front of me, he said dotingly and placed a loving kiss on my forehead. I nodded absent-mindedly in his arms. Nate was good at acting, I thought to myself. I saw Hayden looking at us furiously, like he couldn't accept the fact that I had a second-chance mate. His hands were clenched tightly. His body was trembling, and even Rhett seemed to want to resurface again. I thought he was going to shift and start a fight again, but he just kept quiet while looking at me being hugged by Nate. Soon, his expression turned sad and hurt. I could even see a flash of heartbreak in his eyes before he turned and walked away from us. I was puzzled by his expression, especially that heartbreak. But I guessed it was just my imagination, because there was no way Hayden would feel heartbroken if I had another mate. He never loved me. I concluded his reaction was because his ego was being crushed. A cold alpha with a massive ego like him who was still possessive toward his ex-mate could only feel that way because he couldn't take the fact that his ex-mate was still able to find another mate. "Lottie, are you really okay?" I heard Nate asking me, breaking my chain of thought. "Don't worry about me. This kind of wound is nothing." I smiled at him and added, "Oh, and thank you." I didn't say my reason for thanking him because Alpha Marcus and the doctor were still here with us. If they knew I lied, they would tell Hayden about it, and Hayden would peter me again, which I didn't want to happen. Nate chuckled. "It's my pleasure." He then kissed my forehead again, and this time I felt awkward because it was only supposed to be a show for Hayden. I guess he kept playing the role of being my mate for Alpha Marcus and the doctor. He got his hold of my hand and turned to look at this friend. "Let's go see the patients." The doctor and Alpha Marcus looked dazedly at our public display of affection, but Nate's words snapped them back to their senses. "Okay, Nathaniel, Alpha Charlotte. Follow me, please." The doctor nodded and turned to lead us toward Milla and Sofia's ward. Alpha Marcus walked beside the doctor while Nate tugged my hand gently. I was hesitant to follow as I didn't want to see Hayden again. But remembering how the doctor begged me and my promise to him, I had no choice but to follow them and help to cure my two arch-enemies. Arriving at Milla's ward, I saw her and Sofia looking haggard and pale, and their breathing was very weak, like they were on the verge of death. Yet I felt nothing, not even an ounce of guilt. Maybe I had become heartless due to their mistreatment for the 3 whole years I was here, and even after I had left the Red Claw Pack. Nate started checking Milla and Sofia, while Hayden, Alpha Marcus, the doctor, and I stood at the side, watching him working silently. He came up to me with an empty syringe, and I shrugged helplessly. I offered him my arm, and he took out my blood. Hayden and Alpha Marcus looked shocked. I guessed they didn't expect me to help them, even going as far as giving them my blood willingly. Nate opened Milla's mouth and injected half of my blood in the syringe into her mouth so she could swallow it, then did the same to Sofia. My blood would wipe out all the wolfsbane in their system and help to reconstruct their failing organs. He then began to clean all Milla's wounds using a special ointment to erase the wolfsbane. I loved watching him work. He looked so serious and even becoming more handsome in my eyes, especially with that gold-rimmed glasses perched on his straight and tall nose. I took a piece of tissue paper and wiped the sweat on his forehead. He smiled softly at me and thanked me. I just smiled back at him in return. He kept working diligently and seriously. But soon I saw him frowning, and his frown became more notable with each passing minute. "What happens?" I asked him softly. "I don't know why, but the wolfsbane had infused into her skin, even those that are not wounded," he said as he frowned in confusion. I raised my eyebrows in shock. Just how much wolfsbane did my members sprinkle on them? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the moment, thinking that my members were so hell-bent on revenging me. Their hatred toward these 2 bitches was more than I had expected. Once again, I felt grateful that I had such loyal pack members. If the wolfsbane had infused into her skin, that meant my blood would not work as it should. Their injuries were too severe. Simply put, Their whole bodies, inside and outside, had been infected by the wolfsbane. No wonder their breaths were so weak. "Lottie, this is more than I can manage. I really have no idea how to cure them," he whispered, not wanting the others to hear his words. But of course, with their werewolves' hearings, they could hear Nate's every word clearly. I felt the atmosphere become tense. The auras from both Hayden and his father had turned terrifying. It was as if they would kill Nate the moment Nate gave up on helping them. "Lottie, I think you should invite your doctor over. He's the best doctor. He should know how to handle this," Nate suggested. Hayden and his father's terrifying aura disappeared, and I could feel their expectant gaze fixed on me. I sighed. Was I really destined to save my two enemies? Not many people knew that the so-called best doctor from my pack was actually one of my disciples. I always had talents in medicine, and I used to enjoy curing people as it gave me a sense of achievement and happiness when I saw their family smile after I cured their family members. Before meeting Hayden, I had in mind to transfer my knowledge to some skilled doctors so we could cure many more people. It was impossible for me to cure so many people. It was tiring and a lot of work, so I decided to teach some doctors, and the doctor in the Mooncrest pack was one of them. And it turned out that he became my most outstanding student, becoming the best doctor on the whole continent. Of course, I was so proud of him for achieving that recognition. But I told them not to let anyone know of my talents because I wanted to be the alpha of the Mooncrest pack. If people knew I was actually the mentor of the best doctor, they would flock to my pack, and I wouldn't have the heart to turn them down, but it would hinder my work as an alpha. Not that I didn't want to cure people anymore, but I would still help from time to time when they faced difficulties, just like Nate now. "Don't bother to invite him," I told Nate. Nate looked at me with the same frown he had had for a while now. "Are we just going to let them die?" Even though he knew Mila and Sofia were my enemies, as a doctor, he would feel uncomfortable just letting his patients die while there was still a chance to cure them. His conscience as a doctor wouldn't let Mila and Sofia die. "No, it's just unnecessary to invite him over," I told him as my mind began working on ways to cure Mila and Sofia. "What do you mean?" he asked me, obviously confused by my words. "I'll tell you the ways to cure them," I told him softly, finally resigning to my fate of curing my enemies. He looked at me in shock. "You know how to cure them?" "Yeah, I'm a doctor too," I said, and quickly told him the ways to get rid of the wolfsbane on their bodies before he could question me further. He listened attentively, and suddenly his eyes lit up when he heard my treatment plans for them. He quickly went back to work after I'd finished explaining and telling him how to cure them. I let him draw my blood again, and this time I didn't feel as resentful as before, because I was the one who suggested the treatment process, and my blood was a necessary element to cure them. Soon, he finished erasing all traces of wolfsbane on Mila and Sofia's bodies. Even though he had finished his work, we still needed to wait for them to wake up to ensure that my treatment worked perfectly and that there were no complications. It was lunchtime by the time Nate finished the treatments for both of them, and the doctor of the Red Claw pack asked what we wanted to eat. He would let the Omegas prepare our food and deliver them to the ward, but I declined him. "We are going to eat at the restaurant near here. If there is anything wrong, or if they are up before we return, please give Nate a call," I told the doctor, pulled Nate away from the ward. I didn't want to stay in the same room as Hayden and his father, thus, eating at a restaurant just outside the pack was a perfect excuse for me to leave. Nate and I walked to the restaurant and began ordering. We only ordered a few dishes because I told him Mila and Sofia would wake up soon. I was confident of my treatments for them and knew they would wake up in around 30 minutes. "Lottie, are you really a doctor? Where did you learn your medical skills?" Nate asked with confusion in his eyes. I picked up a dish and swallowed them before answering. I was always fascinated by the medical field, and it turned out I had a talent for it. I was self-taught, just read medical books and journals. Goddess, Lottie, you are amazing. It would be really fantastic if you were truly my mate. He laughed and looked at me lovingly. I just laughed it off and took his words as a joke. Thinking of how fast he could follow my instructions, I suddenly thought of taking him as my student. Nate, do you want to be my student? I asked with a teasing tone. His eyes widened, and he nearly jumped off his seat in excitement. You want to teach me your medical skills? I nodded slowly. I think you have the potential to be better, maybe even better than our PAC's doctor. Your PAC's doctor, he said slowly and gasped. Don't tell me he is your student. I laughed. One of the few. So, do you want to be my student? He nodded fervently with a huge grin, shattering his image of a gentle and mature man. He looked like a kid who was being offered candies at the moment. All right, I'll teach you when I have the time. Now we need to finish our food and go back to the Red Claw Pack. They should be awake soon. As soon as I said my words, he began eating quickly. I laughed and told him to slow down, scared he would choke. Soon we finished our food and went back to Milla's ward. Just as I had expected, the doctor told us that Milla and Sofia had just woken up around 10 minutes earlier and had begun recovering. Charlotte, you bitch. How dare you hurt us until we nearly died. Milla started cursing at me even though she was still weak, while I saw Sofia eyed me with burning hatred. Nate frowned and was about to say something to them, but I stopped him. I never expected them to thank me, but I didn't expect them to still want me dead, even though I had helped them. Such ungrateful bitches. After Milla said those disgusting words, I pulled Nate to leave the room and saw Alpha Marcus's expression darken. I didn't care about him now. I didn't care if he got angry because I left without saying anything to him, which could be counted as disrespectful, and I didn't care if he didn't reprimand Milla. After all, he had always hated me. Though him scolding Hayden before was quite weird. I really wanted to get away as soon as possible, 'cause Hayden's gaze kept boring into me. It was like he couldn't take his eyes off me, and it annoyed the hell out of me. The doctor followed us as we left the ward and walked toward the exit of the Red Claw Pack. Nathaniel, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, they wouldn't be cured, and I would be doomed. The doctor kept thanking Nate profusely. If you want to thank someone, then you should thank Alpha Charlotte. Without her instructions and guidance, I wouldn't be able to cure them. Nate smiled at the doctor. The doctor turned toward me and bowed down deeply. Thank you, Alpha Charlotte. I will always remember today. As I've said before, if you need help, just contact me. I'll help as long as it is within my capabilities. Okay, I'll remember your promise, I told him with a small smile. It would be good to have an ally from the pack that hated me the most. Yes, you can contact me anytime, the doctor nodded happily. Please be careful on your way back, he reminded us politely. Nate and I nodded at him before going to Nate's car. Just as his habit, he opened the passenger door for me before going to the driver's seat. Lottie, you are amazing, Nate praised me again as he drove me back to the Mooncrest Pack. Your methods were unconventional but revolutionary. I had never seen or heard of such creative treatments. You are making me blush, Nate, I laughed. And that night in the club, you were able to dance different types of dances. Lottie, you keep surprising me with your skills and never cease to amaze me, he gushed, which really made me blush a little. Tell me, Lottie, are there any more secrets of yours that I don't know yet? He asked teasingly. Not that I can think of, I laughed. My biggest secrets were most probably having excellent medical skills and being the heiress of the Mooncrest Pack. As for the dancing, I had always been interested in all sorts of dances since I was small ballet. Jazz, hip-hop, belly dance, Latin dances, ballroom dances. You named it, I nearly knew all kinds of dances, since my dad enrolled me in all those classes, knowing my interest in them. So, being able to dance was not a secret, at least not for me. Hey, Lottie. If you don't find a mate again, if the moon goddess doesn't give you a second chance, mate, can I be your chosen mate? Nate suddenly asked that serious question out of nowhere. I was stunned by his question, which was equivalent to him confessing his feelings for me, and I didn't know how to answer him. I didn't want to answer him, to be exact. Fortunately, we arrived at the Mooncrest Pack, and I quickly exited his car. I saw Leo rushing to us, and the moment he saw Nate, he narrowed his eyes and became vigilant, pulling me to his back as though he was afraid Nate would hurt me, and showing Nate that he would protect me if Nate ever dared to do something terrible to me. I rolled my eyes secretly. Leo didn't have to do this. Nate was my friend and wouldn't hurt me, but I guessed he didn't know it. They had never met before, even though Nate had come to the pack a few times. But they had never crossed paths. I saw the amusement in Nate's eyes as he saw Leo's overreaction. Lottie, you are so popular. It seems I have to work harder to win your heart, he laughed with humor. Well, I gotta go back to the Silent Prowlers pack since your protector is here and is going to kill me the moment I make a move on you, he teased. But I felt he was being sarcastic as he looked at Leo. All right. Be careful on your way back, I told him. I will. Oh, and thanks again for what you did at the Red Claw Pack. He smiled and nodded at me before leaving, ignoring Leo's still narrowed eyes. Leo turned to me once Nate left. Why the hell did you go to the Red Claw Pack? Did you go there to see Hayden? He asked with accusation. I rolled my eyes again, this time not secretly. I went there to accompany him with some medical emergencies, since I didn't allow them to be our doctor to treat those two bitches. You actually helped those bitches, Mila and Sofia? He growled in anger. Nope, I just watched him curing them. I lied. If Leo knew what I had done giving my blood and guiding Leo in treating them, he would explode in anger, and I didn't have time to deal with it. I felt like he was being a busybody and was about to reprimand him for it, but then I thought about him being my beta, and it was his duty to know all about my affairs to ensure my safety, and because he was one of my closest friends too. You are close to that guy? Leo suddenly changed the subject. Yeah, I nodded. Nate. I'm sure you've heard of him. I decided to explain who Nate was. Nate's reputation was actually well spread. He was known as one of the excellent doctors on the continent. What's your relationship with him? Leo asked sharply. I sighed helplessly. Having an excellent beta was sometimes not as good as it seemed. He would ask lots of questions, and even though I felt that it wasn't his business, I still needed to answer him so he wouldn't see Nate as a threat to me. He was my and Livy's close friend before I married Hayden, I told him. And now? Leo narrowed his eyes again and kept interrogating me about my relationship with Nate. He's still my close friend, I replied. Leo scowled. A close friend wouldn't pursue you. He's just joking. I knew Nate was serious about wanting to be my chosen mate, but at this time, I had to lie to Leo to calm him down. Lottie, remember what happened between you and Hayden. You don't want it to happen again, do you? You need to stay alert around Nathaniel. I don't want you to feel heartbroken again, Leo reminded and advised me. I thought Leo's presumption about Nate was amusing. Nate and Hayden were different species. Nate was kind, gentle, courteous, and loving, while Hayden was, well, a heartless and cold bastard. If indeed I would choose Nate as my mate in the future, not that I thought about doing it, Nate would most probably pamper and dote me, giving me everything I wanted, not like what that bastard Hayden did to me the 3 years we were together. To compare him with Hayden was actually an insult to Nate. But I didn't tell all these to Leo, knowing he would only lecture me further. Don't worry about it. Nate is different than Hayden. But thank you for your concern, I told him sincerely. I was really grateful for his concern. He was, after all, worried about my well-being. Leo opened his mouth to say something else, but I shushed him because suddenly I felt a mind link I hadn't felt for 3 years opening up. Lottie, I'm back at the Mooncrest Pack at the moment. Come to my room if you are here. A deep, gentle, and affectionate voice of a man I hadn't heard from for 3 years sounded through the mind link, and it got me excited. Sorry, Leo, but I gotta go. I just received a mind link from someone I love. I winked at him. He sighed helplessly, but then smiled meaningfully as if knowing who the mind link was from. Go. He waved his hand with a smile, and I turned to run toward my brother's bedroom. I rushed toward my brother's bedroom. I hadn't seen him for 3 years, and I missed him so much. We had a very close sibling relationship, and just like my dad, my brother doted on me too. I opened his bedroom door without knocking and saw my tall, handsome brother sitting on his bed. He quickly stood up and spread his arms wide, calling my name with a huge grin plastered on his handsome face. I jumped into his arms and hugged him tightly. He laughed, seeing how excited I was to see him. Ethan, you are back. I missed you so much. I felt my eyes get teary because of how much I missed this brother of mine. Ethan Adler, my elder brother, worked in the Alpha King's palace. He was the head guard of Alpha O'Dare and was an excellent soldier who had more power than other werewolves. Well, what did you expect? He had alpha blood in his veins too. He was supposed to be the next alpha of the Mooncrest Pack. But since he thought I would do a better job as an alpha and wasn't interested in the position, he chose to be the king's guard instead. The position of the head guard of the Alpha King was not something that any werewolf could get. As the head guard, he was respected by all werewolves, including all the alphas from all the packs in this world. I missed you too, little Lottie. He lifted me and twirled us around. I laughed with happiness and amusement as my brother still treated me like a small child. He set me down and placed his hands on my shoulders. Let me see how much you've grown. I rolled my eyes. Ethan, I'm way past the age of still able to grow. He laughed and rubbed the top of my head. Indeed, my little Lottie is not so little anymore. I punched his stomach, and he let off and offed even though I knew my punch most probably didn't hurt him that much. I'm stronger, I grinned at him. He laughed again as he rubbed the spot that I had just punched. He took my hand and sat me on the bed. Lottie, I heard about you and Hayden. Are you sure? You want to divorce and break the mate bond with him? He asked with a serious and concerned expression. I was stunned by his question. Didn't he know? You don't know that I've done both? I asked in surprise. His eyes widened as if he couldn't believe I dared to do both of those things. I couldn't blame him, though. He knew how much I loved Hayden. I wasn't happy with him. His family and pack members treated me as if I'm an Omega instead of their Luna. I shrugged nonchalantly. I heard about that. Didn't know it was true, he mumbled. But are you happy now? What can I not be happy about? I'm back in my pack and no longer need to hide my identity. I have Dad and my friends who love me. And now you are here too. I smiled reassuringly at him. He scrutinized me to see if I was telling the truth. Seeing my relaxed and happy expression, he breathed out in relief. That's good. Hayden doesn't deserve you, as he didn't know how to cherish you. I'm sure you'll find someone better than him, he smiled. I just laughed at him, thinking I wasn't really in the mood to have another mate, but I couldn't tell him that. He wanted me to be happy. If I told him I didn't want another mate, he might feel sad imagining I'd grow old alone, and I didn't want my brother to worry. Lottie, I'll bring you out tonight to celebrate my return and help you to forget everything about Hayden, he said with an excited grin. I laughed again. So many people thought I was still hurt because of separating from Hayden and tried to cheer me up. Okay, I agreed happily. It had been too long since we last had fun together. That night, he brought me to a nearby bar. Lottie, I heard someone calling me when I alighted from Ethan's car. I turned around and was surprised to see Nate. You are also here? Ethan asked me to come. He grinned. Nathaniel, Ethan greeted Nate enthusiastically. Ethan, good to see you, Nate replied with the same enthusiasm. They clasped hands and gave each other a man hug. I didn't know why, but my brother seemed to like Nate out of all my other friends, even more than Leo. They had always had a good relationship ever since they knew each other. Let's go in, Ethan said, and took my hand while Nate took my other hand. I smiled helplessly. I felt like a small child with my hands being held by two grown men. Ethan had booked a table at a corner of the bar, where it was more private. Let me get you guys a drink, Nate offered, just as Ethan and I sat down. He knew our preferred drinks, so he just left to order them from the bartender. To our surprise, Ethan and I saw Hayden and Noah sitting at the table across from us. When they saw us, they stood up and walked to our table. Hayden was about to speak, but I stopped him with a cold gaze. Noah looked at my brother, whose face was hidden under a shadow, and began mocking me. Charlotte, it seemed Mila and Sofia are right about you. You are such a slut, always horny, and keep hooking up with different men in such a short period of time. Suddenly, I saw a flash of movement, and the next thing I saw was Noah sprawling on the floor with his nose bleeding. Hayden, keep your dog in line. Teach him how to speak properly so he won't bark out such disgusting nonsense, my brother snarled at both Hayden and Noah. Wow, my brother had just punched Noah in the face and sent him flying a meter away. I had the urge to applaud and praise my brother, but held it in. This wasn't the time to do it. Noah struggled to stand up while wiping the blood that had flowed down to his chin. His face contorted and he snarled at my brother, but stopped when he saw Ethan's face. Clearly, he realized who the man sitting with me was and wouldn't dare to retort, much less attack back. He was no match for Ethan, either in strength, reputation, or rank. Everyone respected Ethan, but Noah had just insulted him indirectly when he mocked me. It was already merciful for my brother to just punch him in the face and not beat him black and blue. Ethan, I want to go home, I told my brother, even though we had just arrived and hadn't even had the chance to drink or have fun. I just wanted to escape and not be involved in this mess. My brother stood up to go with me, but I stopped him. I want to have alone time. He was reluctant to let me go alone, but agreed when he saw my determination and annoyance. I walked straight toward the exit without sparing a glance at the two dickheads who had ruined my mood. Lottie, suddenly Nate caught up with me. Don't be unhappy or annoyed. Don't let them ruin your mood, he said as he followed me. Nate seemed to always know what I was feeling or thinking about. Let's take a walk, shall we? I'll accompany you so you have someone to vent your anger at, or we can just stay quiet, your choice. The fresh night air can also help to clear your mind, he offered in his usual gentle tone. We were still standing at the bar's entrance, and I regarded him silently. I knew he was trying to spend time alone with me as he wanted to pursue me, but I didn't feel like talking to or being accompanied by someone at the moment. Especially not with someone who obviously wanted me to choose him as my next mate. I wasn't looking for a mate, and I didn't feel the same way as he did. I just regarded him as a close friend and didn't want to give him hope. I was about to decline his offer, but before I could say the words, I saw Hayden striding toward us, his body radiating with a deathly aura, and his face full of anger. The moment Noah was sent flying by a punch, I saw the face of the man with Charlotte. It was Ethan Adler, her brother, and the head guard of the Alpha King. That stupid Noah, disrespecting someone he shouldn't have. Charlotte was annoyed and wanted to leave alone without even taking her brother with her. This was my chance to talk to her, I thought to myself. Ethan, sorry for what Noah had said. I apologized sincerely. Everyone respected Erhan at first because we all thought he was going to be the Mooncrest Pack's alpha. But we even respected him more now because of his position within the King's Guard. Being the mature one out of us all, Ethan just snarled at Noah and ignored us. I glanced at Noah, and mind-linked him not to do anything stupid anymore. That's Charlotte's brother, Ethan, and the head of the King's Guard. You should know the consequences of disrespecting him, I warned him. At that moment, I knew Noah had recognized Ethan because he didn't dare to fight back. I'm sorry, Alpha. I didn't know it was Ethan Adler at first. Noah apologized through the mind link. Don't do anything stupid, I warned him again through the mind link before turning around, leaving him and Ethan. I turned around to chase after Charlotte, making my way to the bar exit, when I saw her standing close together with Nathaniel. Nathaniel had a gentle smile on his face, and he seemed to be going to accompany Charlotte. It was obvious from Nathaniel's expression that he loved Charlotte so much. Anger coursed through my body out of nowhere. Alone? She dumped her brother alone in a bar so that she could spend time with her second-chance mate? I nearly laughed out loud due to my anger. Good for you, Charlotte. You even dared to lie to your brother, who always doted and pampered you for the sake of that bastard second-chance mate of yours. I strode quickly toward them with a murderous aura and an angry look. I hated how he looked at her. I hated how he was her second-chance mate. I hated how she seemed so comfortable with him. I hated that they were standing so close together. I grabbed Charlotte's hand when I reached them and wanted to yank her away from Nathaniel. I didn't want them to be together. Hayden, what the fuck do you think you are doing? Charlotte said as she shook my hand away with a disgusted expression. Why? Why did she always look at me that way ever since we divorced? I hated the way she always put on guard against me. I hated how much she seemed to despise me. And what's more, she actually cursed. The Charlotte that I knew would never swear at me. Did she hate my touch that much? Or was it because I wanted to separate her from her mate? I never expected Charlotte to curse at me. She was overreacting, and it annoyed the hell out of me. I grabbed Charlotte's hand again. Charlotte, there's something that I need to talk to you personally. You stay here. I need to talk to her alone. I directed my growl at Nathaniel. I saw Nathaniel was about to make a move, and I was more than ready to fight with him if it meant I could talk to Charlotte alone. Nate, stay here for a while. Hayden and I need to speak alone, Charlotte told her mate gently, and Nathaniel stopped his movement. Fuck, I even hated how obedient he was to her. I dragged Charlotte to a corner and turned to look at her without bothering to release my grip on her hand. What do you want, Hayden? Her annoyance and impatience were apparent in her expression and voice. Reject him, I ordered her in a growl that was more threatening than I had intended to. What the hell are you talking about, Hayden? It's already a blessing that I was given a second chance mate by the moon goddess. Who are you to tell me to defy the moon goddess' wish for the second time? She sneered at me and shook my hand away. The second time. Those words sent a pang to my heart. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath to calm myself down. When I opened my eyes again, I was a lot calmer, and I reasoned I should talk to her gently. Charlotte, please reject him. Could you please reject him for me? I asked with a softer tone. Heck, I sounded like I was begging her. Charlotte sneered and said nothing, ignoring my request and looking as if I had lost my mind. I had a sudden urge to take her into my arms, to feel her soft body molded to mine, to inhale her intoxicating scent, to kiss those plump, tempting lips of hers, to show her she could only belong to me, and so she would reject Nathaniel. I reached out my hand, but Charlotte's words froze me in my spot. Hayden, are you going to be violent toward me again? She sneered and took a step back, away from me. My hand froze midair. Violent. Yeah, for her, I was a violent, heartless, and merciless man. I felt a bitterness spread through my chest, and my hand fell limply to my side. My heart hurt. I felt sad, gloomy, uncomfortable, and even sorrowful when I thought of the way Charlotte was hating me so much right now. I couldn't do anything other than look at her intensely. The pain in my heart was so great that I felt my face fall. A puzzlement flashed across her gorgeous dark eyes as she looked at me. Maybe she could sense my sorrow, or wasn't expecting me to stop myself from forcing or being violent toward her. But that puzzlement in her eyes only lasted a few seconds before she turned around and went to Nathaniel, leaving the bar with him. I couldn't even move my body. I could only look at her, departing back silently with pain in my heart. Why? Why did I still think that she belonged to me and me alone? Why did I want to possess her? Why did it hurt me when she looked at me with disgust, annoyance, and impatience? Why did it pain me when she rejected my touch? Why did it make my heart uncomfortable when I saw her being with another man, especially when the man was her second chance mate? Why did the moon goddess give her to another man? So many why appeared in my mind. And another why, which was the most important, why popped into my mind. Why did I feel and think all those things when I was sure I didn't love Charlotte? I heard and felt Rhett whimpering in my mind. This time, he didn't scold me or tell me that I deserved to be treated coldly by Charlotte. This time he was feeling the same way I was sorrowful and even heartbroken. I knew he was still obsessed with Charlotte. But what about me? Was it only because of my ego as a man? Because I didn't like someone touching and possessing what used to be mine? I rubbed my hand over my heart to ease the pain, a gesture that seemed to have become a habit every time I encountered Charlotte. I sighed heavily, not knowing what to do. Looking around, I saw the bustling and cheerful people in the bar, yet I felt empty, lonely. I went to look for Noah and found him still sitting on our table, downing his drink, while Ethan was nowhere to be seen. I sat down, took the bottle of liquor on the table, and began gulping it down without even bothering to use a glass. Noah wanted to stop me, but looking at my expression, he just kept quiet. He must be confused. I had never behaved this way. Fuck. I was even confused with myself. But the thought of Charlotte going away with Nathaniel, the thought of them kissing and even fucking, kept me drinking bottle after bottle. I needed this. I needed alcohol to numb the pain in my heart. I needed alcohol to drown out my sorrow. I needed alcohol to make me forget every feeling and thought about Charlotte. I needed alcohol to make me forget her. Reaching the Mooncrest pack, I went directly to my room to take a shower and go to bed. My mind was in a mess. I couldn't help but keep thinking of Hayden's words. Please reject him for me. Those words kept playing in my head. The way he said it softly and gently as if he was begging me. But why? Why did he want me to reject Nate for him? And that complicated expression on his face. Sad, dejected, sorrowful even, hurt. I kept imagining those expressions on his handsome face. It made me feel confused, restless, and hopeful. It was the first time he showed me that myriad of emotions. Was he hurt because he thought I had another mate? Hayden! I called out his name softly, unconsciously in my mind. Why did you show me a painful expression? Did you know how it would affect me? Did you finally fall in love with me? I turned around on my bed, unable to even close my eyes. His words and expression kept haunting me. Charlotte, just forget about him. Lexi tried to comfort me. I know, Lexi, I sighed. But maybe because we were once mates, and I loved him too deeply for 3 years, hoping he would pay attention to me. And tonight. Yeah, tonight he finally showed a different expression, which made you hopeful. Lexi also sighed. 3 years is not a short time, Charlotte. It's understandable for you to still have feelings for him deep in your heart, even though you keep trying to deny it and act as if it didn't bother you. but I still think it's best for you to forget him. It's 3 years too late for him. Lexi tried to talk sense into me. I knew she was right. It was 3 years too late for him to show that kind of emotion. Yet no matter how hard I tried, I still couldn't shake the image of his sorrowful face off my mind. My right hand reached down to touch the bracelet that had been adorning my left wrist. It was a gift from Dad before I married Hayden, and every time I felt sad and hopeless during my 3 years at the Red Claw Pack, I would always caress it. Somehow caressing it kind of gave me strength, and it had now become a habit for me to do whenever I felt restless. And this time I subconsciously did it, only to find that there was no bracelet on my left wrist. I frowned. I had never taken it off, so where did it go? Suddenly I remembered that I felt a tug when I was helping Nate to treat Mila and Sofia. Did I drop it there? Yes, I think you lost it there, Lexi confirmed my suspicion. I sighed, got off my bed, and changed my clothes. I needed to go to the Red Claw Pack to retrieve it. As I drove to the Red Claw Pack, I kept telling myself I was only going there to get my bracelet back and not to meet Hayden. I reached the Red Claw Pack and went straight to the infirmary, hoping that Mila and Sofia were already asleep, so I could search for my bracelet without them giving me any trouble. However, when I reached the ward's door, it was slightly opened, and I saw Hayden and Sofia inside. Mila must have been moved to her own room, and now there was only a queen-sized bed in the room instead of 2 single beds, and Sofia was lying on it. Hayden was sitting on a chair next to her bed with his hands holding hers, his thumb caressing the back of Sofia's hand. Sofia had a pitiful expression and was crying while Hayden was comforting her. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but he had a very gentle expression. I felt bitterness spread through my heart. It was past midnight now, and he was still in Sofia's room in his silk pajamas. It was clear that he would be spending the night with Sofia. How could I have forgotten that they were in love with each other? After we divorced, they must have become a couple. I felt so ridiculous for feeling restless and hopeful because of his words and expression at the bar tonight. Stupid Charlotte, I mocked myself and smiled self-deprecatingly. All the memories of how Hayden had treated me during our 3 years together suddenly flooded my mind. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Hadn't I already sworn to myself that I wouldn't let him hurt me anymore? After looking at the scene in the room, my heart broke yet hardened at the same time. No more hope, no more restlessness, no more feelings for him, and no more believing that he would change. Maybe what I saw at the bar was just an illusion. He belonged to Sofia now. Not wanting to see them together any longer, I turned around and left the Red Claw Pack. Hayden's POV. Hayden, why did he have to leave me so fast? She sobbed and held my hands. She was still in the infirmary, with her condition weaker than Mila's. After coming back from the bar and drinking heavily, my sorrow didn't disappear. Being an alpha was a disadvantage in drinking alcohol. The alpha blood would neutralize the alcohol in less than 30 minutes, making us alphas unable to get drunk. I was ready to go to bed when suddenly I received Sofia's mind link, asking me if I was still awake and if I could accompany her. I wanted to decline, as my mood was not in its right place, and it was too late at night. But she began sobbing and telling me how much she missed my brother, and my heart couldn't help but soften at her words. Finally, here I was accompanying her in her ward and comforted her as she kept sobbing. Sofia, there are still so many people who care for you. You shouldn't be this emotional, especially since you are still recuperating, I told her gently. But I lost his baby and can't get pregnant anymore. Why must this happen to me? Her sob became louder. I rubbed the back of her hand with my thumb, trying to soothe her. Sofia, you are still young. The medical world has become better now. I'm sure we will be able to find a doctor who can cure you. You might find another mate and have babies with him. She shook her head repeatedly. I don't want another mate. I sighed heavily. After hearing the recording, I somehow wanted her to find a new mate and get rid of her. I knew it sounded heartless, but although she had explained that Charlotte provoked her into doing it, I felt she was kinda scheming and didn't want to take care of her for her whole life. It's late now. You should rest. Your body is still weak. I found an excuse to get away from her. I was emotionally spent after seeing Charlotte with her mate, and wanted to go back to my own bedroom and rest. I pulled back my hand, but her grip tightened. "Hayden, can you sleep with me tonight?" she asked with a pitiful yet hopeful expression. I was shocked hearing her words. What the fuck? Sofia, you are my sister-in-law. It would be inappropriate for us to sleep on the same bed, I told her with a bit of resentment. Suddenly, I felt that she was shameless and disgusting. No matter how lonely she felt because she was missing my brother, she shouldn't have asked me to sleep with her. But I'm lonely. She still tried to lure me into sleeping with her, which only heightened my disgust toward her. Sofia, don't ever say those words again. You are my sister-in-law and it's inappropriate. I emphasized my words again with impatience. Seeing she couldn't change my mind, she apologized and said that she wasn't in her right mind, and I should forget she ever said it. I nodded and turned away without saying anything else anymore, not even bidding her good night. Suddenly, I remembered Charlotte's way of addressing Sofia when she was talking to me, mistress. Did she think that I was in love with Sofia? I realized there were rumors on the pack that I was in love with her even when I was still with Charlotte. It's because you care about Sofia too much. And it's obvious that Sofia wants you, Rhett suddenly said. His words struck me like a lightning bolt. I was only nice to Sofia due to her being my brother's mate, but it made people misunderstood our relationship. It was disgusting to be gossiped about having an affair with my own sister-in-law. As I walked nearer to the door, I smelled Charlotte's scent, but I knew it was just an illusion. She had found a new mate and would never came back to me. Suddenly I saw something shiny on the floor. I bent down to pick it up and realized it was Charlotte's favorite bracelet. I caressed the bracelet and decided to keep it. After all, I had regretted throwing away all the things she had given me, except for our wedding picture, and this bracelet was the only thing I had of hers now. I would keep it as a cherished treasure. I walked toward my bedroom with another kind of determination to keep myself away from Sofia, so there wouldn't be any rumors about us anymore, and to stop Charlotte's misunderstanding.